Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
The new era is upon us. Welcome to the Jay Recher Podcast. Here it is January 6, 2025. Wow. We have plenty to get into today, but Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher. Like and subscribe, man. The outpouring of love and emotion and support has been just absolutely incredible. Wanted to take some time off to recharge the batteries. Of course, everybody knows that I go to New York for the holidays, but now I am ready to roll. And of course, I want to communicate with you here on the program. So make sure you leave your questions, comments, concerns there at the bottom. You see a little fresh background, a new intro video. Shout out to our guy, James Donlin. If you remember James Donlin, he was our producer there at the end of the tenure of Jay and Zach, and he just brought an entirely new element to the program. Funny guy, stand-up comedian, and he's going to continue to work with me here on the program to just freshen it up, keep it funky. And I'm excited. I'm excited for 2025. And if you see already, I am at the games. I'm still Lightning game tomorrow night at Amalie Arena. Got games Tuesday and Thursday this week for the Bolts. I was at Ray J yesterday for the Buccaneers matchup against the New Orleans Saints. More on that in a bit, but it does not stop. This program right here is not something where it's going to take place of anything else. This is just a brand new endeavor for me. And like my guy Paul Russo says, getting it done. Shout out to Jeff Taylor. Great to see you as well. Big Dummy Dan and Dave Velasquez as well. Again, can't thank you all enough for the love and support that you've shown me. Let's keep this baby rolling down the hill. And just being the only live and local talk at noon here in the Tampa Bay area, talking about everything here in the Bay and outside as well. We know we're going to break down the Buccaneers with our guy Ian Beckles at 12:30 today. He's going to join us every Monday at 12:30. We got a little bit of an announcement as well to see what he's got going on. So can't wait to see what Big Beck has got in store, because Ian's always doing something. Going back, I got something in my pocket here. I don't know exactly. Oh, it's a breath mint. If you ever these fisherman friends, fisherman friends, they're good like lozenges. Dave Mishkin for the Tampa Bay Lightning put me onto them, and then I go home for the holidays. My parents have them. These are honey and lemon. They're not the greatest tasting cough drops in the world, but my goodness, those things are bad ass. So go check them out. If you're ever, feeling a little nasally or you need to get rid of the cough, this is awesome. Fisherman friends. They're not a sponsor of the show quite yet, but yeah, go check them out right now. David Terry. My man Jay, Happy New Year, hermano, and then Janet Best as well. Happy New Year, go Bucs. Ian joins us at 12:30 today. Ryan Pepiot joins us at 1:30. The Rays right-hander, good buddy of mine. He was the guy that caught my first pitch. It wasn't great, but he was out there. And just an all-around good dude. So we're going to talk about what it's like to be a member of the Tampa Bay Rays, kind of not knowing what the certainty of your future. Where are you going to play? I think everybody knows that they're going to be playing at Steinbrenner Field for 2025, but what about that? What about after that? 2026, 2027. We just saw some breaking news here a couple minutes before I got live with you guys. Colleen Wright of the Tampa Bay Times, who we've had on the show multiple times, she has been all over this. This Tampa Bay Rays Stadium saga, it never ends. It just doesn't seem like there's ever going to be an endpoint. But Colleen just put out an article, and it looks like the Rays are on board for using Tropicana Field for opening day 2026. I know they were hesitant about that, but there was a letter sent to, I believe it was to the city. I have to check it again, but it was on December 30th from Matt Silverman saying that the Rays look like they are going to, all systems go, plan further to go ahead for 2026 opening day at Tropicana Field. It didn't say anything about the new stadium that hopefully will be here in 2028, 2029. But I'll reach out to Colleen after the program today so she can join us later on this week, because she has been all over this. big event happening tonight on Netflix. I don't know if you have Netflix. I don't know if you're a wrestling fan, but if you know, I am big time wrestling fan. I have been my entire life since I was knee high to a grasshopper. And it's weird because my dad wasn't a wrestling fan. Nobody around me, even my friends, like they were quasi wrestling fans, but nowhere near as excited and as just intense as I was ever since I was a little kid. And people go, yeah, I was a wrestling fan when The Rock and Stone Cold. Yeah, that's great. I've been a wrestling fan the entire way, not just WWE either. So tonight, Raw, Netflix. Monday Night Raw on Netflix. The Rock, John Cena. It is going to be one of the biggest wrestling shows that you are ever going to see. And I put out a poll question on my Twitter /X. Head on over there for all of my information at Jay Recher. Will you be tuning in tonight? And we'll reveal the poll results right around 2 o'clock today when we wrap up the program. Will you be watching Raw on Netflix tonight? Again, huge names, The Rock, John Cena, Solo Sikoa against Roman Reigns for the battle of who's leading the bloodline into the future here in 2025. Are you interested? Do you care? Let me know here on the stream. And also, like I said, go to my Twitter poll and simple answer, yes or no. But we start the program today with the Buccaneers beating the New Orleans Saints. It always sounds good to say that, doesn't it? I mean, nobody ever wants to see the Buccaneers lose to the New Orleans Saints. And it's been a little bit of a bugaboo the last couple of years, even when New Orleans hasn't been as good with Drew Brees no longer there. But, man, a win's a win, right? It wasn't pretty. The first half was ugly. And I even had Phil. I didn't tell anybody this. I didn't put this out on social media yesterday either. But this is the kind of information you get when you join the Jay Recher podcast. The great Phil Esposito called me yesterday during the Bucs game. And he was asking me about the podcast. And he goes, what's that sound in the background? I go, Phil, I'm in the press box at Raymond James Stadium for the Buccaneers game. He goes, oh, okay. He goes, I'm watching that shit right now. I'm like, what's wrong, Phil? He's like, these guys can't tackle for anything. And Phil's more of like a baseball guy than a football guy. And of course we know he's a hockey legend, but freaking hilarious that Phil Esposito was kind of diagnosing what was wrong with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense yesterday. Why can't these guys tackle? Tell these guys to tackle. Phil is a trip. It wasn't pretty in that first half, but if you have seen what the Buccaneers have done the last couple of weeks, you know that they do a phenomenal job of making adjustments at halftime and coming out in the second half and just playing much better on the defensive side of the ball. And that's exactly what you saw yesterday against the New Orleans Saints. And I know you should have seen my mentions, and I asked, who is it to blame? Who was to blame for the struggles for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that first half? And people were ready to jump ship at halftime. I mean, what are you guys thinking, though, honestly, when it comes to Todd Bowles? I mean, you want to talk about the struggling with the timeouts? Fine. But I've seen a lot of other head coaches have similar issues with that this year. Guys like Raheem Morris, guys like Mike Tomlin, guys like Dan Campbell. It's just so weird to me that even when this team is playing well, you don't hear any love for Todd Bowles. But when they're playing bad, it may not have anything to do with him. But the blames are on Todd Bowles. He wasn't the guy missing tackles in the first half of that game yesterday. It was guys on the defense. All right? He wasn't the guy calling all the pass plays early on, and I know you wanted to get Mike the record, but 2 running plays, I think, in the first quarter, like, that's not on Todd Bowles. So it's weird how, when this team struggles, automatically it's get rid of Todd Bowles. Automatically it's his fault. I got some numbers for you. 3-0-3-0-3. That's the amount of points given up in the second half of the last 5 games of the Bucs regular season. 9 points in 5 games. All games the Buccaneers had to win, and without starters like Antoine Winfield Jr., like Christian Izien, like Jordan Whitehead, like Jamel Dean. Not much of a pass rush on the outside. I know it's gotten better the last couple of weeks, but let's not be naive to the fact that Todd Bowles and this defense has done an incredible job of making adjustments at halftime. Now, I was one of the first guys when Todd Bowles got elevated to the head coach saying, beware. I've seen this story with the New York Jets with half of my family being Jets fans. But what we have seen from the Buccaneers the last couple of years is nothing like we saw at the end of the tenure of Todd Bowles with the New York Jets. Nothing like it. You're talking about a team, okay, yeah, people say, oh, they never beat teams they're supposed to. We just saw them beat the snot out of Carolina last week. What are we talking about? This is a team where they are battling every single week. It may not be pretty, it may not be a Picasso. You know I love that segment. But this is a team game, and this team sticks together no matter what. Winning streaks, losing streaks, second straight year. They've gone on a losing streak in the middle of the season. Second straight year, they come right down the stretch and win game after game after game after game to get back into the playoffs. Fourth straight year winning the division, fifth straight year in the playoffs. No team in the NFC has made the playoffs 5 straight years outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, if you're going to tell me, okay, it's all Todd's fault when they're not playing well, and don't give me the, well, he's the head coach, he has to bear the brunt of the blame. Well, if that's the case, then those same people should be showing Todd love for the mid-game adjustments that he's made, and this team somehow finding a way to win 6 of their last 7 games to be division champs once again. So let's just keep that in perspective when it comes to yesterday, when I go back to what I heard and what I saw at halftime. When it comes to Todd Bowles, show the guy some love, show the guy some respect, right? The players respect him. Teams around the league respect him. I know, again, the timeouts, I mean, just watch games around the league. Nobody's perfect. But to have a guy like Todd Bowles, to have his team ready to win these games down the stretch, don't tell me they don't beat teams they're not supposed to beat. Down the stretch, they have to win those games. They did. 6 of their last 7. They're in the playoffs once again. And for all those people in the offseason that thought the Atlanta Falcons were going to be the division champions because they won the offseason, on behalf of Tampa Bay, I just want to let you guys know that Michael Penix Jr., Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson, Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson, they're all playing golf today. They're gone. They're out. Bye-bye. Let's go back once again to the decision that they made. And there were some people that are trying to be smarter than everybody else that wanted to tell us that it's a good idea to spend $180 million on an aging quarterback coming off of an Achilles injury and then using your first-round pick on a quarterback. It didn't make sense then. It doesn't make sense now. Does it mean Michael Penix is a bad player and he's not going to develop? Not at all. But when you're looking at a team that made those type of decisions and they didn't even win the division, I hope McKay stays there forever. I hope Raheem stays there forever. Can you literally watch those games and tell me that Zach Robinson's a better play caller than Liam Cohen? I mean, sometimes things work out in your favor. Remember, Tristan Wirfs was the 4th best offensive lineman in the draft a couple of years ago. We see how good that worked out for the Bucs. But for all these people that thought the Atlanta Falcons, forget about the division, were Super Bowl contenders, wow, what a rude awakening. None of those people are opening up their computers today, January 6, 2025. So in the offseason, whether it's the NFL, the major leagues, no matter what sport you're talking about, just think back to what we just saw with the Atlanta Falcons. You do not win the championship in the offseason. Not now, not ever. So goodbye, good riddance, good luck in the offseason. Go do what you have to do. It's a poorly managed franchise. Goodbye. See ya. Look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the model franchise. Let's look at, of course, I want to talk about Mike Evans. And if you were in the building yesterday, if you were at Raymond James Stadium, I want to hear from you. Leave some comments on what the atmosphere was like at Raymond James when Mike Evans broke that record. Because I'm going to give you my perspective here momentarily. And I'm also going to tell you why it's way more about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. I did the hockey term there, organization, not organization. But it's more about the team, the organization as a whole than it is about Mike Evans. But I want to get into this real quick. The rookie class has been fantastic for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. And do you notice that you didn't see Rachaad White at all? Yeah, it was kind of wild, right? And I saw him walking out of the locker room yesterday, and it kind of strikes you to see how a guy that in the offseason was doing the media tour, he stopped by us at the studio. I mean, Rashad was RB1. He was ready to take that step forward and be one of the best running backs, not just in the division, not just in the conference, but in the entire NFL. And now Bucky Irving is RB1, clearly, and it's not close. He is a guy that has made a profound impact and has gotten better and better and better. The only time I didn't approve of what Bucky did is when he scored that touchdown in the end of the game yesterday, because I thought, no, don't do that. Go down. Mike Evans isn't going to get his record. But, of course, you got to play to win the game. You got to secure the victory first. But I know I wasn't the only person that was kind of like, oh, shit, don't score. We need Mike to get 5 more yards. But just look at Bucky. Look at what he's done. And if you have him on your fantasy team, like I did, hopefully you won the championship. Like I did. I've been in the same fantasy football league for 10 years. I created the freaking league. 12-man league. I've got guys up in New York. I've got guys here in Florida. I haven't won once until this year. And the big reason why was because Bucky Irving and Saquon Barkley were in my backfield. I have Mike Evans as a wideout with Ladd McConkey. It worked out pretty damn well. So shout out to those guys, that's for sure. But it doesn't stop with Bucky. You look at what Graham Barton's been able to do. And I spoke to Graham yesterday. He's probably the one Buccaneers player that I've talked to the most this year. And if you missed any of my videos from yesterday, please, this is why you want to follow me on social media at Jay Recher. I decided instead of doing these long descriptions of what was going on in the Buccaneers locker room yesterday, I just wanted to give you like an entire thread. And I spoke to Tristan Wirth and Graham Barton and who else? Levante David and just a bunch of guys. Go check it out. I don't want to ruin the some of the guys that are on there as well. But speaking to Graham Barton and to know what that guy has been able to do this year, coming in as a rookie center, hats off to him. Hats off to him. When's the last time we talked about Graham Barton? Like in a negative way? It's been weeks. And offensive line is one of those positions that if you don't hear a guy's name, it's probably a good thing. He's just doing his job, flying under the radar, and helping the team run the football effectively and protecting the quarterback so he can move the football through the air. And Graham Barton, God, I can't say enough nice things about that guy. Also, on offense, you look at what Jalen McMillan's been able to do, stepping up in the absence of Chris Godwin. That guy is another dude that has gotten better and better each week. But in the middle of the year, it got a little funky there. You didn't see as much Jalen McMillan. You were wondering where his maturation, where his growth was. And now you see J-Mac, and you see what he's able to do yesterday. One of the biggest plays of the game was that 4th and 8, where Liam Cohen had the balls to make the call. Baker Mayfield not only had the balls, but had the ability to make the throw. And then Jalen McMillan makes the catch. Then on the touchdown grab, you had to see it for sure because it was such a nice play. You don't want to get your hopes up before they called it back because he was out of bounds. Toe tap, boop. That wasn't even a toe tap. Unbelievable footwork to be able to keep both feet in bounds to give the Buccaneers the touchdown. You love to see that. Now, how about a guy that hasn't contributed as much as Jalen McMillan, but the last 2 weeks has come up with grabs? Devin Cope. And I know he's not a rookie, but how about Peyton Durham with the touchdown grab too? Those two tight ends stepping up in the absence of Cade Otton. But whether you talk about Cope, whether you talk about J-Mac, whether you talk about Bucky Irving, Graham Barton, I know Chris Braswell hasn't really taken that step to really be that elite pass rusher. Hopefully a good offseason, hopefully some tutelage under guys like Shaq Barrett, who was so great to see him in the locker room yesterday. Jason Light has to be considered for executive of the year, GM of the year, the way that he's been able to do this with this Buccaneers team, where Tom Brady retires, you eat the dead cap, you go from one of the oldest teams to one of the youngest teams. You just consistently hit on your draft picks. And I know people want to go back to the Aguayo. How long has it been since Aguayo was here? They drafted another kicker after that with Matt Gay. So I'm not even like, that thing is so far in the past, I could care less about that. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I like that Jason Light had the balls to go draft Roberto Aguayo that high. I know it didn't work, and I know some other people might get fired for that, and hindsight's always 20/20. But if you're trying to fix the kicking woes, you're going to go after the most accurate kicker in NCAA history. It didn't work out. So what? You move on. This is still the guy that picked Tristan Wirfs. This is still the guy that picked Antoine Winfield Jr. I just mentioned all the rookies this year. And let's not forget Jason Light's first ever pick that he made, Mike Evans. What you saw with Mike Evans yesterday was such an incredible highlight on not just Mike, but the franchise of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a whole. That is the way that it's done. And when you see the Dallas Cowboys not playing Cooper Rush and he misses out on a 6-figure bonus, and you see other teams around the league, and you see other teams in sports trying to pinch pennies and trying to act like, oh, woe is me, I don't have money. And then you see the Buccaneers going balls to the wall at all costs, trying to make sure that not only Mike gets the record, but he gets that $3 million bonus. That is the type of team that fans want to root for. Look at the excitement on the field from Mike's teammates when he broke that record. Look at the excitement in the stands at Raymond James Stadium yesterday when Mike broke the record. Just look at social media. Former players, former coaches, just fans of other teams talking about how cool it was that even though the Buccaneers had the game in the bag, they still trotted out their offense and threw a pass to Mike. So he was able to get the 5 yards, to get 1,000 yards for 11 straight seasons. He hasn't had a year in the National Football League where he didn't pick up 1,000 yards. And I know some people are going to slight it because it's 17 games. I could give two shits whether you want to slight him or not. That's your prerogative. That says a whole hell of a lot more about you than Mike Evans. The fact of the matter is that he did it, and nobody else has done it. Nobody else in the NFL. When you're comparing him to guys like Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, fit the gold jacket right now. But just think about this Buccaneers organization as a whole. Just a couple of years ago, where people are looking at this team as the laughingstock of all of sports, the lowest winning percentage out of the 4 major leagues. When you're talking about a team that used to get their games blacked out. And now you have a GM and a staff that care about building a roster from within, building it through the draft, rewarding your veteran players that have shed their blood, sweat, and tears to put a winning product on the field for your team, for your fan base and for the people in the Tampa Bay area. You do not think twice about spending your money to be able to go to a Buccaneers game right now. You don't, because you know that Baker's going to give it everything he's got. You know that you're going to see Mike Evans, that's a future Hall of Famer. You know you're going to see a guy like Levante David, who, even though he's in his mid-30s, he's still running around like a maniac trying to make plays. He's going to be in the Ring of Honor one day. And then, you see 2 young studs, Winfield and Wirfs, and rookie classes that every single year they contribute to the product. And again, 4 years in a row, they've won the division. They've made the playoffs 5 straight years. The leadership for this team is exemplary. What Jason Light has done does not get talked about enough, and it shouldn't just get talked about yesterday. And it's not just about how he treats Mike Evans and Levante David, even though we don't see that from other teams. The way he's been able to draft, the way he's been able to keep guys here, the way that he's invested in this team, that is success in so many more levels than just wins and losses. We know that there's only one team that's going to win the Super Bowl every year. Just the name of the game. Just the name of the game. But to be competitive every single year, to know that you can invest in the team because the players are going to be around, to know that you got guys that are willing to do whatever it takes to win. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have gone from a laughingstock to a team that you're proud to be a fan of. It's amazing. And you could say that it's Tom Brady. You could say that it's Bruce Arians. You could say it's Jason Light. It's everybody. It is everybody that has been involved with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the last 5 years. What a dramatic turnaround. You want to talk about from worst to first. There's never been a better worst to first in all of sports than these guys. 5 years in the playoffs. Not the Eagles, not the 49ers, not the Lions, not any of these other, not the Dallas Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank God Tom was here. Thank God Bruce Arians was here. But the guys that are here after them are still carrying the torch. They're holding it high, and they're one of the more respected teams around the league. And I love watching this Bucs team. I love it. Sometimes it's frustrating, but isn't that what makes sports great? You just turn it on, you don't know what you're going to see. But I know no matter what, even in the games that they lost this year, go back to some of the games they lost, battling to the bitter end. Did they have one game this year where they weren't like striving to the very end to try to win the game? I mean, you could argue that the worst game they had was against Denver. You look at the Denver Broncos, that was the one game where you look at it, I was like, all right, they lost by 19. The Ravens, they lost by 10, okay? But they were in that game, and they battled back. Same thing with the Falcons, the overtime game. The Chiefs, they took them to overtime. The San Francisco 49ers, all those missed kicks by Jake Moody, he finally made one at the end, but the Bucs battled back in that one. Even the Cowboys game, they didn't play well in the first half. They turned the football over in the second. They had a chance to win that game. This Bucs team, it is incredible to be able to watch this club and to be able to say that just a couple of years ago, they had the lowest winning percentage in all of sports, and now they've made the playoffs for the 5th straight year. Amazing. It's insane. It's insane. And again, going back to what happened with Mike Evans yesterday, I was down in the tunnel when Mike caught the pass, and you could feel Raymond James shaking. People were losing their mind. And I'm a big believer in, you could say that you're a great person all you want, but it's what other people say about you. It's the joy that other people have in your success that speaks volumes over not just what kind of player you are, but what kind of person you are. You're talking about a guy that's a nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year, which I think is the best award to get as an individual in all of sports, because that is an award that is vetted. You look at you're talking about guys. I remember Andrew Whitworth, offensive lineman, won it years ago, and they were talking about the amount of charities, not the amount of charity work, the amount of charities that he was involved in. That means you're going above and beyond just what you're doing on Sundays. And I've had this conversation with Derek Brooks and Martin Gramatica, and our guy Ian Beckles is going to join us here in a minute. That was one thing that Tony Dungy preached. Using your platform for more than just being a football player. And whether this team had ups and downs in the last 2 decades or so, you have still seen that, whether it's the offensive linemen getting together, whether it's the linebackers giving two new cars last week. This Buccaneers team, led by a guy like Mike Evans, this is a team that you want to look at and go, I want to model my franchise after. Isn't that crazy? That is wild to think after so many years of futility. But now you look at him and you go, yeah, okay, I'm with that. Mike Evans is that guy. He is. And when we went outside that locker room before we were able to be allowed to get let in yesterday, you could hear the team celebrating through those walls that I know they probably soundproofed the hell out of them to make sure that nobody hears what's going on. But they were losing their minds celebrating Mike Evans, who aptly so got the game ball for once again 1,000 yards for the 11th straight year. And if you go back to some of the videos that I took yesterday, I did this after Levante David picked up 1,500 tackles weeks ago when he became the second player in Buccaneers franchise history after Derek Brooks to accomplish that feat. But yesterday I walked around to different guys, and I wanted to ask them about Mike Evans. And when you listen to Tristan Wirfs and you listen to Jalen McMillan and Payne Durham and Devin Culp and Shaq Barrett, just listen to the words that they have to say about Mike Evans. As much as it is about him as a player, listen to what they say about him as a man, as a friend, as a teammate. Listen to what Payne Durham has to say, and with Devin Culp, 2 young guys, years 2 and a rookie year respectively. Listen to what they say about a guy like Mike Evans and how he treats them. there's no like looking down on you because you're a rookie and you haven't made it here. Devin Culp said the first guy that showed him love on the sideline last week after his first NFL catch was Mike Evans. That tells you all you need to know. Let's continue this Buccaneer conversation going, and we do it with the only person we know how. He's going to join us every Monday at 12:30 here, looking fresh and funky as always, the one and only Ian Beckles. Ian Beckles?
Beckles. Yeah, man. I didn't do it. You did it. I didn't do it.
That's hilarious.
I wouldn't even know how to do it. I ain't gonna lie to you.
It's all right. We'll keep it. Everybody knows who the hell you are, man.
Yeah, man.
Let's jump right into it, man. The Buccaneers, and I want to start here. We'll get to Mike Evans in a second. Mm-hmm. But you and I were on air together when this team was bad, and we're talking about a team that was that had the lowest winning percentage out of all four major sports. And Beck, 5 years in a row, the only team in the NFC that have made the playoffs over that span, 5 straight years, 4th straight division title. What's the one, I guess, common theme that shows you that this is the reason why this team has been so successful over the last half decade?
Well, it's funny. If you go back 4 weeks, 5 weeks, people were asking for Todd Bowles' head. So what I think is common is Todd Bowles. I mean, if you go back to the Super Bowl year, he was as big a reason as anybody else on this team why they won that Super Bowl. Then you look at after that, if I ask you the question, do they play for Todd Bowles? Is anybody going to say no? Okay, because I'm not sure they're that talented. If I say what do they do consistently, they do something, but as a whole, I don't know if they're this power. And they're figuring out ways to win. And to win the South 4 years in a row is a big deal. I don't know if they've ever, I'm positive Bucs never done that before.
No.
And it's just, 5 years in a row playoffs, and you want to change it. Obviously, Buccaneer fans aren't looking around at other teams. And we have one of the youngest teams in the whole NFL, and we're 10-7, and we're competing. And I think the Bucs have a good chance than anybody else in the NFC to get this done.
9 points given up in the last 5 games in the second half, Dean. 3-0, 3-0, 3. They haven't given up a touchdown in the last 5 weeks. And for all the people in the halftime, everybody was crushing Todd Bowles. Do I think he's the greatest coach in the world? Maybe not. I don't know if he's a top 5 coach, but you want to tell me that there's a guy out there that is going to be as consistent, getting his team down the stretch of the season to win games that they need to win. You can't not give him any credit for going 6-1 over the last 7 games, and in the last 5 games, only giving up 9 points. If you're going to hate on the guy for his inability to call timeouts correctly, and at times when maybe you're not approving of the defensive scheme, then my goodness, you better give that man his credit when he's been able to do what he's been able to do down the stretch.
Well, a lot of fans only notice when the head coach makes a mistake. If he does the right thing, nobody ever notices. So if he makes a mistake 2% of the time, we complain forever that he doesn't do things well. If I ask around the fan base all around the NFL, does your coach do a good job in the last 2 minutes? Most of them are going to say no because they just remember the mistakes. Mm-hmm. I like to ask players. I don't mean me personally, but if I want to know what kind of person, Todd Bowles is or Mike Evans is, ask Tristan Wirfs. Ask Levante David. Jay, you're very blessed, and we talked about this the other day, to get to hang around athletes. Okay, so you see it from a different perspective. Do we BS at all?
You can't.
Okay,
you see right through it. You see right through it.
Exactly, and athletes don't BS. If an athlete doesn't like a coach or a player, they'll either say nothing. Mm-hmm. Or they're not going to gas them up. I wouldn't do it. Nobody else would do it. So I've never heard anybody on the Bucs really say anything bad about Todd Bowles. And let me piggyback that. I'm in the same community as Mike Evans, and I've never one time heard anybody say anything negative about Mike Evans while we're gassing people up.
Yesterday, and you and I are kind of piggybacking off of that, to see Mike Evans and the way that the Buccaneers went out of their way to give this man the record. I think it kind of hurt him in the first half because they focused so, hey, man, you forgot about Bucky a little bit. There was only 2 rushes there for a while, and I get it, right? But at the game, you got the game in hand. Anybody else is taking a knee there. You're up 8. You got the playoffs locked in. They go out there. I thought it was a class move, and I don't know if many people saw this. They called the timeout before that last play to kind of give the heads up to the New Orleans Saints, like, hey, we're not kneeling here. And I think there was an unspoken, like, hey, we're going to try to get Mike the record. And I know Coach Rizzi is just an interim coach, but all I heard leading up to the game is that, and New Orleans played hard yesterday, and Rizzi's he's probably not going to be their guy going forward, but he did well down the stretch for that New Orleans team where it's like, that guy's going to get a job, maybe not a head coach, but he'll definitely get picked up somewhere. And for the New Orleans Saints, and seen the battles over the years, for them to be like, all right, cool. And, they played off them, 6, 7 yards, 8 yards ain't going to change their day. Nobody's going to look at New Orleans and look at them in any type of way. But to see how the organization embraced Mike getting that record before, during, and after, is it more? Does it say more about Mike Evans, or does it say more about the organization, you think?
I think both. I think the Saints conceding is a testament to who Mike Evans is. Okay,
right.
And listen, not all organizations are going to do that. I'm just telling you right now, because I'm old school. You remember when Strahan got that record?
Yeah,
that pissed me off more than anybody, because if I was an offensive lineman on the other team and you gave him a sack, when I guarantee in that offensive line room, everything was focused on not giving him the record. Mm-hmm. And they shut him out the whole game, and Favre gave him the record. That pissed me off, okay? Yeah. It shouldn't piss Mark Gastineau off that much still. Right. That was a little bit too much, but, as an offensive lineman, it pissed me off. Now, the whole thing with Mike Evans before they got it, when they got the ball back, everybody's like, they're going to throw it to Mike, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to. I've never seen this before. I've never seen a situation where the game was over and a team run a play. I've never seen it. It's odd. And for the Saints, because if the Saints wanted to, they could have put 6 guys over there.
Right.
And they could have done what they want. So I think who Mike is had a lot to do with that. And I don't know if Baker Mayfield and the organization and the fans didn't want it more than Mike. And look around other organizations. The Dallas Cowboys benched Cooper Rush because he was 2.5% away from making a big bonus. And there's some organizations that did their best to get their players their bonuses, like the Bucs. And there's some disgruntled organizations like the Cowboys that are doing what they can to save money, and that won't work ultimately in a locker room. I promise you that locker room's talking, and that can't go well.
And the Bucs have done it the last couple of years. Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, these incentives. And isn't it crazy, though, like to see how you're talking about the Bucs with Hugh Culverhouse. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a team that was getting their games blacked out. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a team that was the laughingstock of all of sports, Ian, and now they're not just winning. I think that's the thing that sticks out to me more than anything. Mm-hmm. The Bucs aren't just winning. Like, they're doing things the right way. Like, they're treating people the right way. And unfortunately, we compare a lot to the Rays where, they're trading they traded away Randy Arozarena, right? And I saw a video yesterday of Randy Arozarena stealing home plate in the playoffs. And I'm like, why would you ever get rid of that guy? You need good vibes. And as much as people want to say good vibes don't pay the bills, good vibes don't win championships, I mean, man, I think a lot of times, Ian, that kind of stuff goes hand in hand.
Well, I tell you what, I was part of the Hugh Culverhouse regime, and let me show you how it differs. I was in a game, last game of the season, and Lawrence Dawsey, a wide receiver from Florida State, he said, bet. I say, what's up? He goes, I need one catch for $50,000. And I go, what? He goes, I need one catch for $50,000, and they're not calling my number. And it was the end of the game. And I looked at Craig Erickson, I go, snap the ball and throw him the ball. He goes, what? I go, snap it and just throw him the ball for $50,000. I'll take it. Craig goes, you're taking it? I go, I'll take it. Because I don't want an organization to come to me to tell me that they're doing things to not get that guy $50,000. Right. I don't want that. And look at the difference. That was, $2-3 million for Mike?
$3 million.
How much is it?
$3
million. Most organizations are going to do what they can and not give you that money. And I love the fact that the Buccaneers are one of those elite organizations now that treat their players the right way, because that wasn't the case back in the day. That's a fact.
think about it like this, Ian. The Cowboys didn't want to give Cooper Rush $250,000.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers did everything they could to give Mike Evans $3 million.
Yep.
From the outside looking in, you're talking about Dallas, the most successful franchise maybe in all sports when it comes to the profits. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about the Buccaneers. It's crazy how this whole thing has turned. And I really don't think it's a mystery that the way that they've been handling their business, and I think it starts with guys like Jason Light and Todd Bowles, has led to this team having success. And I think you look at Baker Mayfield. Even if you're a Bucs fan, you know what Baker Mayfield's shortcomings are. But, I mean, when that guy's willing on 3rd and 11 to go and lower the shoulder just to get that 12th yard to make sure that it's a first down, have you ever been prouder as a Bucs fan? I feel like now's the time, and I know they winning the first Super Bowl and second Super Bowl, but when you're talking about success, when you're talking about the people that are in charge, when you're talking about the leaders of the group, I don't know if there's ever been a time where the Tampa Bay area was ever prouder of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, I think that's what most fans want to do. They want to be proud of their team, and they also want to have a good product out there. And I think the Buccaneers are doing both. With Mike Evans, he's salted earth type cat. I don't say that about many people, Jay. That's true.
Right.
Baker Mayfield, I've not heard negative things about Baker Mayfield ever. He seems to be a family man. I like to hear stories like Tristan Wirfs saying, I met him for the first time. He's like, let's go get a beer. And we've been cool since. I mean, that's just you're a regular person because, right. Listen, I like Tom Brady in the locker room. Can you dare say he's a regular person? He's not a regular
He's
person.
Not.
He's different. He's Hollywood. You ain't hanging out with Tom Brady. But, Baker Mayfield, and I think the majority of American fans want to believe that they can have a beer with the dude that they're cheering for. And I think I don't drink anymore, but I would sure smoke some weed with Baker Mayfield. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Now they move on, and now they're facing the Washington Commanders. And this is a team that the Buccaneers saw all the way back in week 1, but they've gotten better and better. Dan Quinn has done a great job over there. They got Fred Warner leading that defense on the defensive side, but Terry McLaurin, touchdown machine at the wideout spot, and, of course, Jaden Daniels. I know you and I were a little concerned how slender his frame was going into the year, taking all those hits. He missed some time early on in the season. Mariota came in. But after that, he seemed to have changed a little bit of I can't keep doing this. He almost went into instead of the Josh Allen, who you and I at times watch Josh Allen go, dude, get down. Mm-hmm. He's almost taken that role of how we saw Russell Wilson in the last couple of years of I don't have to, I can still use my legs. I don't have to take hits. What do you think is going to be the key for the Buccaneers to stop Washington and advance, and win a playoff game for the second straight year?
Well, I'm happy they're going against a rookie quarterback, as opposed to, the Lions or even the Vikings. Okay, I going against a rookie quarterback in the playoffs and the rookie quarterbacks on the road. I mean, even Vegas thinks the Bucs are going to win. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I think it's I don't think it could be a better matchup in the playoffs. That being said, you got a young kid that doesn't know any better. He doesn't know any better. I don't know. Clearly, he's good under pressure. I don't know if this moment is too big for him. We're going to find out. But if you're Washington at this point, it's almost they can't lose, it seems like. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody expects them to be there. I don't know if anybody expects the Bucs to be there either. But if Washington loses in the first round, I think everybody's going to be picking them to go to the Super Bowl next year anyways because of this young kid. This young kid, he's looked good the whole time. But then again, I don't know if anything is harder than quarterbacking in the NFL. And Stroud was great the first year, and the second year he came down to reality. Sometimes your first year you succeed because you're dumb and you don't really understand how hard it is. And the offseason, you watch it and you go, oh, my God, this is really hard. And it becomes harder in the second year. But I've liked everything I've seen from Jaden Daniels. I think the Buccaneers match up well against them.
Yeah, and shout out to Drew G. Bucs better have long sustained drives so that Jaden Daniels has limited opportunities, and D has got to have Winfield back. Going to be a huge challenge. I mean, Antoine Winfield Jr. is a guy that we haven't seen, and he's been on the mend. I saw him yesterday. He was all smiles, wearing the hat, wearing the shirt of the division champs. But they really need their full complement of defensive players. We know Jordan Whitehead's probably not going to be there. But yeah, Antoine Winfield Jr. is a huge piece to get back. I wanted to ask you about the Lions-Vikings game yesterday. Sam Darnold, to me, he's had a fantastic year. I mean, nobody saw him leading the Vikings to a 14-3 record. But there was something about that game last night where I saw Sam Darnold that was on the Jets that said he saw ghosts. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I was making too much of it because, of course, we're all prisoners of the moment. You know, last year the Bucs won 9-0 in the final week of the season, and they go and they beat the Eagles, right? The team that the year before was in the Super Bowl. But I just don't know how to feel about Minnesota. I feel good about Detroit. I mean, that team is solid on both sides of the ball, and I think Minnesota tries to be solid on both sides of the ball. But what do you take from a guy like Sam Darnold who's had some success in his career? They're 14-3, but now they got to travel out west to take on the Rams. I don't like Minnesota in that matchup.
Well, the reason why I like Minnesota is their defense. You know, Sam Darnold, if he does anything, I think Minnesota wins the majority of their game. I think you have to give a lot more love to Aaron Glenn for what he did to Sam Darnold yesterday, because he was seeing ghosts. Aaron Glenn, that's my boy who I was with the Jets for briefly. Listen, Sam Darnold is a middle of the league quarterback, and that's saying a lot. Okay, if you could win a Super Bowl with a middle of the league quarterback, that's been done numerous times. Sam Darnold's going to get $40 million after this year. Okay, that's just the way it's going to go. You can't give it to JJ McCarthy after that. You know, you can't, because then you got to start from scratch again. You might start off 0-4, and then the fan base is going to flee, and it's going to be a terrible situation. Sam Darnold, I was having this conversation with Tony Mayberry yesterday. I go, do you know how many guys we played with, especially at quarterback, that might have been great, but they didn't get the chance to? Just think of how many guys come in as rookies, first pick in the whole world, and it takes them 2.5 years to get acclimated. If you're a fifth rounder, you don't have 2.5 years. What he's doing is hard, but you can't do it in the first 3 years. Very few do it. I just think Sam Darnold's growing up. Hey, Baker Mayfield is growing up in front of us as well. Baker Mayfield 3 years ago wasn't what he is now,
right?
But he's watched so much more film. He's been in so much more situations. And the same with Sam Darnold, although I think Baker's playing better than Sam Darnold at the moment.
It's kind of crazy how they were both on the Carolina Panthers a couple of years ago. Yeah. And they both combined for 24 wins this year. And speaking of Carolina, shout out to Dave Canales. They ended up winning that game yesterday. Bryce Young is another guy. Everybody's trying to throw him out, like, you know, throwing the baby out with the bathwater after year one. I think he's gotten better. I mean, he's not a big guy, but he's learned, like, on the roll. You know, he's had Andy Dalton there to kind of bounce off ideas. I think you give up on quarterbacks too early in this league, and I just think that's just a death knell for franchises. And then, you know, we see some of these other stories in the NFL where a guy like Gerard Mayo only gets 1 year with the New England Patriots, in 4-13. It looks like Mike Vrabel's in their crosshairs, but man, it's kind of crazy how, you know, some guys you'll get 3 years, like Doug Peterson, before he gets let go. They announced today that Joe Shane and Brian Dable are going to get another crack at it with the Giants, but Gerard Mayo, 1 year in and out of New England. It's kind of crazy how it works in the NFL.
How the hell did the Giants GM survive that? How did that happen?
I think they've had so much turnover, you know, since they won the Super Bowl, that they're looking for some kind of consistency. And I can see where they're. I mean, look at their draft class. I mean, the draft class. I mean, Tracy's good. Neighbors is good. Like he did a decent job drafting, and we see this a lot of times too, where guys need some time, right? Jason Light did pick Mike Evans first, but he also picked some other duds as well. And you look at Noah Spence and Vernon Hargreaves and Roberto Aguayo. And, you know, if you don't live with Jason Light for a little while, you don't get him to kind of learn the error of his ways and pick Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tristan Wirfs and Bucky Irving. So I think it's tough in the NFL because it really does stand for not for long.
Well, just think if you're an owner, all right, Jay, and you're the general manager says, I really think we should give this guy $180 million, okay? And then the next year you cut him, you got to go. I don't give a crap what your name is, what your pedigree is. And then listen, I'm the first person to say that Saquon, they couldn't have re-signed him. it looks so terrible.
It looks bad.
It couldn't look. The man almost got the record, and he didn't even play in the last game. And y'all didn't do squadooch a whole year, so it looks terrible. God bless him for keeping his job, but I don't know. You're lucky man.
Yeah, he is a lucky man. You got that right. And you look at Rich McKay and the job that he's been doing. There's another guy. Hey, Kirk Cousins. Here's $180 million. And then you draft Michael Penix, and then people are talking about getting rid of Kirk Cousins. Just another example. I said it before, Ian. You don't win the championship in the offseason. So everybody could, Atlanta can have all that. What do you got coming up on In the Trenches this week?
It's funny. First of all, well wishes to Tom Ponzo.
Yes, Ponzo,
who was getting his ticker checked. I did the In the Trenches this morning, and Chris was doing the audio and the everything and the video, and I did the whole thing, and it got messed up. So I got to actually redo it a little bit later. So your people got my best stuff before everybody else. So In the Trenches is my podcast. Come and hang out with us over here at Dignitary Cafe, and I'm always on the bone, and sometimes I'm gonna do a little something on 620 again with Pat and Aaron.
Nice.
So I'm a little bit everywhere, brother.
I hear that. 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Go check out the digs. The new sign outside looks fantastic.
Yeah, man.
And before I let you go, I think we should let the cat out of the bag. The big announcement that we have coming up.
Yeah, man.
January 5th. Go ahead.
I'm gonna let you do it, but I'm excited. We talked about certain different situations, and then the other day we just basically blurted out the same thing. It's right in front of us, but go ahead.
It's so funny. This is how like when you work with people and they become friends, and you finish each other's sentences. But Ian and I were possibly going to do something together as like In the Trenches or on my podcast, and all of a sudden it was just like, why don't we just do a Beckles and Recher podcast? So that's what we're going to do. That's the big announcement here. Not only is Ian going to join us every Monday at 12:30 here on the Jay Recher Podcast, because I'm going to be live every day at noon, but every single Wednesday, starting on January 15th, the Beckles and Recher Podcast is going to be underway. We're going to be live. We're going to be talking about everything. Yeah, we're going to talk football. Yeah, we're going to talk about Bucs. But you know how Ian and I are. We're talking about food. We're talking about music. We're going to talk about, stories that are going on in the world that I don't think any other shows, I don't care if it's sports or anything, they don't have the balls to talk about. So Ian and I are going to get together next Wednesday, the 15th. We're going to do 3 or 3:30?
I think 3 sounds good.
All right, 3 o'clock next Wednesday, the 15th. We're going to be live every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. So put that on your calendars now. Monday, January 15th, starting at 3 o'clock, the Beckles and Recher Podcast. And just like, how about Jay Kobe in here? Beckles and Recher. Sultry lady voice.
How many podcasts start off with a dope-ass song and a dope-ass logo? Let's rock.
You got that right. Yeah, it's funny because when I was at the digs the other day, we were trying to find the old song, the old Beckles and Recher song. So we'll definitely have that as well. Ian, appreciate your time, my friend. One love, enjoy, and I'll talk to you later on this week.
Stay black.
You know it. Got my card. I got it back. I got it back from Tony the Racist. All right, my brother.
All right, kid.
That's it. Oh, yeah. So there you have it right there. The Beckles and Recher Podcast, January 15th, Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we're going to be live from the Dignitary Tea and Kava Shop. We're going to be taking your texts. We're going to have special guests. But, yeah, it'll be one time a week because this is going to be my everyday thing. But it's going to be wild. I can't wait. I've always had so much fun working with Ian. Such a great guy. And, again, like you work with people and then they become friends and then you spend time. And even, after Ian got let go, we still hung out. We still watch Bucs games together all the time, and never home games because I'm usually at the game. But during the away games, 95% of the time, you'll catch me at the Dignitary Tea and Kava House watching the game with Ian and the entire crew over there. Get well soon to our guy, Tom Ponzo. Hopefully he is not going to be, affected by this too much. And hopefully the ticker is doing well. So shout out to our guy, Tom Ponzo. So yeah, once again, the Beckles and Recher Podcast kicking off January 15th at 3 p.m. Tell your friends, share it on social media. That's another thing that I want you guys to really understand. and we've noticed this over the last couple of weeks, and especially yesterday when I posted all these videos. I tweeted out, you want Bucs post-game videos? I've got your Bucs post-game videos, 31,000 views. And then the Mike Evans, where Bucs teammates showing love to Mike Evans, over 13,000 views. So you're looking at what the work that I've done at a Buccaneers game yesterday, just for those two posts on Twitter. That doesn't count TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. It's over almost 50,000 views. So if you want to be a part of the Jay Recher Podcast, the Beckles and Recher Podcast, feel free to email me, jay@thejayrecherpodcast.com, because we are going to be partnering up with some local companies, and we are going to make sure that we keep this thing going, because of course we want to monetize this thing. We want to keep this thing going. And can't do it for free, right? Like eventually, like you want to make some money, you want to make some coin out of this. So if you're interested in sponsoring, if you're interested in being a part of the Jay Recher Podcast, make sure you reach out to me again, jay@thejayrecherpodcast.com. Follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and shout out once again to my guy, James Donlin, who has been such a big part of everything we're doing here. And we're going to continue doing big things as we go forward. Make sure you vote on the poll. Will you be watching WWE Monday Night Raw on Netflix tonight? Let's see the update on the poll. Right now, with 1 hour left, 71% say no, 29% say yes. Oh, wow. And it's always curious when you're talking about Monday Night Raw and you're talking about WWE and wrestling fandom, because Tampa is one of those places where it's one of the homes of wrestling. It really is. I mean, you go back to the days at the Armory and all the big names that have traveled through, and you see the Dusty Rhodes and the Ric Flairs of the world, and there's it's such a hotbed for wrestling. But still, there's some people that just like it's not their thing. But you see it right there. 30% say yes, 70% say no. Feel free to vote again on Twitter/X. Will you be watching Raw tonight on Netflix? Because it's going to be huge. John Cena, The Rock. We'll get into the card a little bit later on. Let's get to some of your comments here on the program. Thaw says, Jason Lane is drafted really well. We are lucky to have him. You got that right. Here we go. Who else? Drew G says, Dallas, a clown show as usual. Hammer! Jay, Raymond James was insane yesterday at the game. I almost cried when Bucky scored, but Mike got it. Fire the cannons. And you know what's funny that you say that, Hammer? I saw so many people on social media and a lot in the group text of people saying that they shed a tear yesterday. Whether it was for Bucky Irving scoring that last touchdown, whether it was for Mike actually getting the record. But let's not forget, and this is part of the reason why I like something like wrestling, is when we're watching sports, when we're watching entertainment, whether it's movies or TV shows, it's an escape from reality. We want to get our emotions invoked. We want to feel something. Have you ever seen Get Him to the Greek? It was almost like a sequel to Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And it was Russell Brand, plays Aldous Snow, who's this big rocker from England, and who was it? Jonah Hill was in it. I'm talking about Getting to the Greek. And the big thing was to make sure that he got to the Greek Theater to do this performance 10 years after his record came out or what have you. So he is like not feeling good about himself. He jumps off the top of this building and breaks his arm trying to jump into a pool. And he gets out, and somehow, some way, he gets to go on stage. And I know it's a movie and I know it's fake, but they were like, you can't go out there. And he said, it's good to feel something. And I think when you're talking about your entertainment, when you're talking about your teams, when you're talking about something like wrestling, when you talk about anything in your life, the worst thing is to be apathetic. When you're like, I don't care either way. That's so awful. And I know some people might want to go through life like that. Like, all right, well, yeah, I don't really care. It's good to care about something. It's good to feel something. Don't tell me you don't care and then you're a Bucs fan. You watch that game yesterday and you didn't get stirred up with that emotion. There are people visibly crying in the stands. The majority of the people in the building yesterday will never meet Mike Evans. have never met Mike Evans. But that's what sports can do. Sports can give you that feeling, can give you that emotion. Like, shit, man, why do I feel like this? Why am I getting so emotional? Sports is powerful. It really is. I mean, it's got its great moments, it's got its terrible moments. You see fights in the stands. Like, it's not all gravy. But man, days like yesterday, when you talk about me being here and doing my job in the Bay Area for 10 and a half years now, there are certain days that you remember. There are certain days that you look back on and you go, I cannot believe I was in attendance for that. I can't believe that I was able to cover that. Now, you look at things like WrestleMania at Raymond James Stadium. You look at the Super Bowl where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You look at the Lightning winning the Cup and the Lightning boat parades. Yesterday was one of those moments. Yesterday, when Mike Evans was able to when he was able to get that final grab, I'll never forget the sound, the feeling inside Raymond James Stadium. I'll never forget how quickly he went. Usually Mike's on the field, he's showing love. Mike couldn't get back to the locker room quick enough to celebrate with his teammates. And I'll never forget the look on the Buccaneers players' faces when the media went in there. And listen, it's the NFL. It's the NFL, and it gets covered more than any other sport in this country. But even us here locally, you saw more media in the locker room yesterday. And for the players to be so just over the top happy, not just for the team's success, but for Mike, like, it just speaks volumes. It really does. And I want to bring Patrick here. That moment with Mike and the reaction from the team literally brought me to tears. That's awesome. I mean, that's badass. That's the kind of shit that you want to see when you watch sports, right? Happiness there when it came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, we didn't see as much for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They lose again last night in Anaheim against the Ducks, and you saw Alex Killorn with the assist, and it was just, you kind of shook your head like, yeah, great pass, killer. 3 games out west, 3 losses for the Tampa Bay Lightning. No bueno. And this isn't 10 years ago when it was a murderer's row, when San Jose, LA, and Anaheim were 3 of the best teams in the league. San Jose and Anaheim, not great. LA, one of the best defensive teams in the league. I thought that was their best game when it comes to the Bolts. I thought just one little slip up, leaving Adrian Kempe alone in the high slot, and he's able to beat Vasi for that second goal. And then last night, they couldn't get past one goal in all of those 3 games. They just couldn't get that second one. I truly believe if they would have got a second goal in any of those games, they probably would have went on to win. Those are going to happen. But if you look at the standings, the Lightning are still in decent shape, and I'm going to tell you why. They have so many games in hand. It is ridiculous. And we've seen the last couple of years where usually other teams had games in hand. This year, it's flipped. And when you look at it right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning have only played 37 games this year. The least amount of games played in the National Hockey League. 37 games. They're in 4th in the Atlantic Division. Boston's ahead of them by 3 points, but they have 5 games in hand of the Boston Bruins. 5. 3 games in hand on the Florida Panthers, who are 8 points ahead. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're in first place with 54 points. So, let's say they win all 5 of those games that they have in hand with the Boston Bruins. They get 52 points, they'll be right in the thick of things. But in order for them to not let what just happened the last couple of days affect them, going into the break that is going to be here before you know it, because the 4 Nations face-off is coming up, they have to win these next 2 games. And it is a tall task because you know who's coming in town tomorrow night, one of the toughest teams to play in the National Hockey League, in the Carolina Hurricanes. They're 24-14-2. You know Rob Brind'Amour is the head coach, of the style that they play. They're tough defensively, a lot of shots on goal. No surprise there. The Lightning have to play like they did in LA, strong defensively, and I think they can come out with a victory. 2 wide open yesterday in Anaheim. Second game of back-to-back, I understand. But it's not about how many goals you score. It's about how many you keep out. We've said that for years, and that was the key to the Lightning's success when they won back-to-back cups. It wasn't how many goals they can score. It was the 1-0 wins in Game 7 against the Islanders, where the only goal they scored was a shorthanded goal. They got to get back to that. And tomorrow night is going to be a big test because Carolina is one of those teams where they're like a mirror. They show you who you are. If you're a team that can play well defensively and you have better top-end scoring, which I think that the Lightning do, I think they can come out on top. But if you're a team that cheats the game, if you're a team that's giving up odd-man rushes, Carolina's going to make you pay. And then, you look Thursday night, a team that is right above them, team we just spoke about, the Boston Bruins. Now, this isn't the same Boston Bruins team we've seen the last couple of years, but they still have David Pastrnak. They still have Brad Marchand. And you know those guys always raise their level when they play the Tampa Bay Lightning. And those are the only 2 games that they have before they go back on the road. And then Saturday in New Jersey against the Devils, turn right around the next day on Sunday, and then play Pittsburgh. And then up to Boston next Tuesday, and then back home. And, the schedule, it's very road heavy this month for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So these 2 games, winning these home games, there's only 6 home games the entire month. So you look at it right now, there's 4, 6, 10 road games, 6 home games. And just the 2 games are just pops. So Tuesday and Thursday, Carolina, Boston. And then next Thursday and Saturday, Anaheim and Detroit. And then the end of the month, January 28th and 30th, they play the Blackhawks and the Kings. These 2 games, don't let this get out of hand. Plant your flag in the ground. We are a defensive team. We're going to play the game the right way, and you'll be able to come out on top against Carolina. One guy that I'm looking at when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning as a guy that really needs to pick up his game, and that's Connor Geekie. And I know he's a rookie. I get it. I know I'm not asking this guy to be a 30-goal scorer. But Connor Geekie is a guy that's got all the talent in the world, and he's getting opportunities to play in the top 6. I don't care if you're playing with Anthony Cirelli or Brandon Hagel. I don't care if you're playing with Point and Gensel like we saw yesterday. This is a guy that needs to go to the net, and he needs to get back to playing with a little bit of a snarl. I want to see a little bit of a Brad Marchand to his game. I think he said earlier that he wants to be like Barkov, which is good. And that means that you want to play a real 200-foot game, but I think he's got a little bit of an asshole to his game. I want to see that. I want to see big hits. I want to see him going to the dirty areas, going to get the puck. I want to see him going to the front of the net, causing damage. I want to see him ruffling the feathers of the other team. I want people getting pissed off. And I want to see Connor Geekie smiling with that toothy grin. I want fans on the other teams getting pissed off that he's making such a big impact on the game. Because the talent's there. But I think the confidence comes and goes, and it's natural. I'm not saying that if he doesn't get it this year, that he's never going to get it. But this is one of those guys that can really determine where this Lightning team is going to be come postseason time. Is he going to be one of those guys that's just going to kind of fall back in the pack, be a middle 6 guy, not contribute offensively? Or is he going to take the bull by the horns and let everybody know that he's here to stay? We saw that with Braden Point. We saw that with Anthony Cirelli, obviously in 2 different ways. But the Lightning give these young players the capability, the opportunity to prove that they belong with this team. They just have to take it. So Connor Geekie, I'm calling on you, man. I'm calling on you. Make an impact in these 2 home games against Carolina and Boston. For all my Lightning fans out there, Bolts Nation, watch these games. Watch these Lightning games over the next 2 games. And I want you to tell me, what do you see from Connor Geekie? Do you see a guy that's ready to take that next step, or do you see a guy that's really struggling, finding his footing in the National Hockey League? All right, a couple other things in the NFL. Again, we mentioned Doug Peterson getting bagged in Jacksonville after going 22-29 in 3 seasons, 4-13 this year. The injuries to Trevor Lawrence the last couple years really hurt him. And that's the reason why he was there. We saw the job he was able to do with the Philadelphia Eagles, whether it was Carson Wentz or Nick Foles leading Philly to the Super Bowl over the New England Patriots. I thought it was a good fit. It just didn't work out. Crazily, though, Trent Baalke, the GM, is staying. And when you look at his decisions in free agency, when you look at his decisions in the draft, I don't understand that, right? Like I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't. But we'll see. But they are not the only people that are talking about their job today. And Gerard Mayo, I mentioned this with Ian, gets only 1 year in New England, 4-13, just an absolute dumpster fire there. And you know what's weird about this whole thing is that Drake May actually looked okay this year. He looked decent. He looked pretty good, right? Usually in situations like that, a team will look at it and go, well, we don't want to worry about that. And I know Gerard Mayo's not one of these guys that, he's not a Sean McVay or a Kyle Shanahan where he's calling the plays and doing all these things. He was more of kind of a leader of men hire, a guy that was here with Bill Belichick. He played for the team. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But for the Kraft family to be able to move on from a guy like that was waiting in the wings, that was the heir apparent, for them to get rid of him after 1 year, that tells you that something is in the works. You have to think Mike Vrabel is the next guy up. It just makes too much sense. Because just think about it. It's 1 year with a rookie quarterback, a guy that you love. Like there's no reason why they don't care about Gerard Mayo, right? He's been there. He's a New England guy through and through. But to get rid of him after 1 season with a rookie quarterback, that tells me that Mike Vrabel is just waiting. He's just waiting on that call. And I know he took meetings and people were talking about him going to the Jets, and that in part may have had something to do with why New England made the decision yesterday before the ink was even dry on the end of the Patriots season. And I don't think it's a bad move. I mean, if you honestly think that this is the right guy, then you make the move. There's so few coaches out there that are primed to be consistently competitive every year. And I think Mike Vrabel is one of those guys. We saw what he was able to do there in Tennessee. Tough-nosed brand of football. And I told you, if you listened the last couple of years, that Mike Vrabel was not long for that Tennessee job. Why? Because there's no way in hell he wanted to get rid of A.J. Brown. Not a chance. They were cooking there. They were cooking. They had something going. They were able to be successful with a guy like Ryan Tannehill, who hasn't really done anything since. Think about that. When you're competitive every year and you don't have a guy that's a top 10, top 15 quarterback, it just shows you that you may be a piece away. They had Derrick Henry. They had A.J. Brown. God, they had some good players on both sides of the ball. Kevin Byard, the safety. Simmons up front. God, that team was good and just it sucks. It sucks to watch them be like, man, that team, where did they go? Is Will Levis the guy? I don't think he's the guy. It doesn't take long. I mean, and I know our guy Rick Stroud says a lot. Greatness shows itself early, whether it's quarterback, whether it's a coach, and it doesn't mean long-term success. It means flashes. And you know how at times I don't like that word flashes. Every once in a while, you got to see something. So, like you saw with Drake May, everything going wrong around him, didn't have the greatest playmakers on the outside or a tremendous running game or a head coach that really knew what he was doing, and he was still able to show flashes. We'll see what he's able to do in year 2. I'd be very surprised if by the end of the week we didn't see Mike Vrabel as the head coach of the New England Patriots. Also, some other news that we just saw at about 12:17 today. The New York Jets have requested a general manager interview with Buccaneers assistant GM Mike Greenberg, who grew up a Jets fan on Long Island. This is from Adam Schefter. Mike Greenberg is one of those guys. He is one of those guys. He's one of the ingredients to the recipe of success that this Buccaneers front office has had. And you look at if you look at Jason Light's Twitter, you see the picture that he was able to post with some of his guys. That would be a devastating loss. It's tough to think that he wouldn't want to go home to revitalize that Jets team because there's some pieces there, man. And it's kind of wild to see the 2 New York teams. It's crazy to see that the Giants, who did a decent job in the draft this year with Tyron Tracy and Malik Neighbors and Drew Phillips and Newbin, like they did a decent job there, but they were so bad. They got the Daniel Jones pick wrong. I think they probably could have brought back Saquon. He wanted to come back. You couldn't break the bank for Saquon because you gave all that money to Deion Jones. Now he's sitting on the sideline watching the Vikings play. But the Mara family announces today, Joe Shane and Brian Dable not going anywhere. Fresh slate, new quarterback. I don't hate it. Well, let's see what they do. Do they go out and get the Jameis Winston? Do they try to get one of these guys like a Sam Darnold to be a bridge? Or do they go out and draft a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders, wherever, they find themselves at number 3, whoever's there. But you look at Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, and they're gone from the Jets. Man, it's just so wild. What happens with Aaron Rodgers? Maybe Aaron Rodgers goes to the Giants. He just has to go to a different locker room. He can stay in the same stadium. That's why the NFL offseason is so intriguing. You just don't know what the hell is going on. All right, Ryan Pepiot is going to join us at 1:30 today. But before we get to Ryan Pepiot, I want to do a new segment that's called That's What's Up. That's What's Up. And what I want to focus on some of the best stories from over the weekend. The first thing I want to focus on is USF women's basketball. Over a dozen agencies and vendors in attendance on Saturday at the Yingling Center for Dog Adoption Awareness Day. I hope that you saw this broadcast, and if you didn't, go back on ESPN Plus or just check them out on social media. What a cause. It helped that they beat Temple. They're now 3-0 in conference play, but this is truly a one-of-a-kind type thing for Coach Jose Fernandez and USF basketball. And it was great to see his wife, Tanya, on the broadcast at halftime talking about what they do and what that day was all about. They have 8 rescue dogs of their own. You want to talk about people that are pillars of this community. Jose been here 25 years leading the green and gold. But all of the videos and all of the pictures of the dogs in attendance, it was so great. I wanted to go, but part of the reason why I didn't go is because I didn't want to have to get guilted into buying a dog, because we can't do that right now in all the adjustments in the Recher household. But my goodness, go check it out. And again, everything on the website, everything that they have when it comes to giving these dogs a home, right? Don't shop, adopt. You hear that all the time. And USFBulls.com, go USFBulls.com. I have all the information on there. They did such a great job. The dog, and people were able to donate as well. Beds, food, unused toys, towels, crates, leashes, puppy pads, treats, Amazon gift cards, Chewy gift cards. If you can help out in any way, a great cause for Coach Jose Fernandez and the USF Bulls. I'm with our guy, Bart Hill. Can't lose Mike Greenberg. He's our capologist. And my guy, Nelly. Awesome show, Jay. Appreciate you, my good friends. Also on the That's What's Up, Derrick Rose. Longtime NBA star point guard. Jersey's getting retired next year, but he was celebrated on Saturday night when the Bulls took on the Knicks. So apropos that the Knicks were the opponent because his former coach, Tom Thibodeau, leading the way for the Knickerbockers. Chicago ended up winning that game. There's an experience there, like a Rose experience that you can there at the United Center and be able to look at some of the things from Derrick's career. A wonderful celebration for a guy who is an amazing talent. A great story about a kid from Chicago elevating his hometown team to just stellar heights. Both teams wore shirts before the game, 1-4-25. 1 is the number he wore for the Bulls. 4 is the number that he wore for the Knicks. And then 25 he wore for the Wolves. And I know that was his number in high school. But he's going to be one of those guys that when you have the conversation of what would that guy's career be like without injury, Derrick Rose's name will always come up because he did win an MVP and he did have some really, really good years for Chicago. And as a backup guard for the Knicks a couple years ago, he was still a damn good player. But what if he was 100% healthy? Because there was something about Derrick Rose that was different than I think a lot of the other guys that are playing in the game right now, where there was a clutchness to his game. He wasn't a phenomenal shooter, but he made key shots. He was a clutch player. He just seemed to make the right play at all times. And he also busted his ass on defense, coming up with steals, and he wasn't a detriment to his team. Like, you didn't hear people bitching and moaning about the lack of work ethic or the lack of effort for Derrick Rose. And in basketball, where there's a lot of people right now that are just not fans of the NBA. I mean, you look at, a couple of guys, you look at Jimmy Butler, who doesn't want to play for the Miami Heat. He wants to get traded. I mean, making tens of millions of dollars, playing for one of the best franchises in the NBA. He wants out. Anthony Edwards, who's sitting here, one of the best young talents in the game, talking about, I don't want to be double teamed. I mean, that's what happens when you're a good player. Why don't you get your assists up? Why don't you try to average 15 assists a game? Why don't you find a way to pass the ball out of the double team and then cut to the basket and get an easy 2 points? Like, people don't want to hear the bitching and moaning from these guys that are making 20, 30, 40 million dollars a year. No, we don't. We don't want to hear you bitching and moaning about load management. Sorry. People are getting up at the crack of dawn every day to keep food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. You're running up and down the basketball court, playing basketball, getting paid millions of dollars. Nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody ever felt like they were getting that from Derrick Rose. And that's why even till this day, people still look at him with such reverence. Badass dude. I felt like he was able to jump and be sideways and laid the ball in with both hands. Like, God, he was such a fun player to watch. Loved it. Also on the That's What's Up, we got to show some love to the golden goal heard round the world. Teddy Stiga scores in overtime last night to give the USA a 4-3 win, and the red, white, and blue win the gold for the second year in a row at the World Junior Championships there north of the border. What a pass from Zeev Buium. Remember that name. Left-handed defenseman. He wore number 28. He's a draft pick of the Minnesota Wild. Stiga, a draft pick of the Nashville Predators. That's what I love about the World Juniors, is that if you go back and watch World Junior highlights from the final in years past, almost every guy's an NHL player. Like, it's a really, really good kind of idea of what the next level is going to be like and who's going to be the shining stars. This isn't like college football where, yeah, maybe if you're watching Georgia, maybe if you're watching some of these teams, these big time teams in Ohio State and Texas, like, yeah, you'll see some of those guys on Sunday. But the World Juniors, a lot of these guys have already been drafted. So you're looking at matchups of players that are in the system, and they're probably going to be playing in the NHL one day. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but go back and my brother showed me this years ago. I forget what year it was, but it was obviously before they were both pros. World Junior Final. Russia versus Sweden, and Sweden wins 1-0 in overtime on a goal by Mika Zibanejad. Again, it was 1-0. And a Russian player turned over the puck in front of his bench to lead to Mika Zibanejad, and now the Rangers going in and scoring the game-winning goal. And the Russian player that turned over the puck that ended up in the back of the net, Nikita Kucherov. Just wondering about that. Like, maybe that's why he's like not the friendliest guy, like, to the media, because that kind of burns, inside him. And hey, if that's the case, bro, more power to you. Let that shit motivate you for as long as humanly possible. I got no issue with that. But go back when you get a chance and watch some of those World Junior finals because you'll know a lot of the names. Ryan Leonard, captain of the Stars and Stripes, voted the MVP of the tournament. He was public enemy number 1, getting booed from the Canadian crowd. That was a lot of fun to watch with him. That was almost like a Brad Marchand. I was saying this before about Connor Geekie. Watch the way that the crowd was booing Ryan Leonard, a draft pick of the Washington Capitals. I wonder if he'll play with Ovechkin. It won't be long. I mean, he was the captain of the team. He's going to be up in the NHL very soon. Gabe Perreault, his line mate, they both go to Boston College together. Perreault, a draft pick of the New York Rangers. There's a lot of good players for that U.S. team. Back-to-back golds for the first time in their history have they ever won golds back-to-back. And next international hockey coming up in just over a month, the Four Nations face-off. And that is, I don't know if anybody realizes, because when that happens, it'll be after the Super Bowl. And you're going to be cheering on the USA, I think, right? Or you're going to be cheering on Team Canada or Team Sweden. Probably not Team Finland because there's no Lightning players on there. But do you rock with Victor Hedman and support the Swedes? Do you support Team Canada, knowing that John Cooper's behind the bench, knowing that Julian Breezeball's involved, knowing that they're going to have Braden Point, Anthony Cirelli, and Brandon Hagel? Are you going to pull for the Canadians, or do you rock with the USA and cheer for Jake Gensel? And finally, root for guys like Matthew Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk and Austin Matthews and Jack Eichel. I cannot wait. I think the Four Nations face-off is going to be nuts. Does Team USA win? Do they keep those good vibes going? Because we didn't mention Canada in the World Juniors. Know what place they came in? I don't know. Do you? They didn't come in the top 4. They didn't play in the bronze medal game. They lost out. And they had like 6 of the top 18 scores, I think it is, in junior hockey. They overthought it in a big way, and they just got bounced. No medals for Canada. And it was on their home soil. That has got to kill them. That has got to just make them so mad to know that this is their sport. World Juniors comes around, you leave all these good players home, and then you see Team USA celebrating on your soil. I think it's going to come down to the U.S., and does it come down to Canada? Their goaltending for years was the key. Carey Price, Martin Brodeur, Roberto Luongo, Corey Crawford. But now what? Now the best goalies are Americans or Russians, but they're not in it. No Vazzy, no Shesterkin, no Sorokin, no Bobrovsky. The U.S. has Connor Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger and Jeremy Swayman. I'm taking all 3 of those guys over whoever the hell that the Canadians are rolling out between the posts there. I'm excited. Going to be a good competition. Make sure you keep it locked here. I'm going to break that all down, and the games are in Canada and Boston, so that'll be awesome. All right, finally, my last thing for That's What's Up. If you're an MMA fan, you'll remember the name Matt Hamill. He was the first deaf fighter in the UFC and fought a number of big names, including Tito Ortiz, Michael Bisping, Rampage Jackson, John Jones, who he defeated via disqualification, the illegal 12-6 elbows, which are legal now. He's the only guy to actually have a win over John Jones. And over the weekend, we find out that Matt Hamill, for the first time in 41 years, he's 48 now, but for the first time in 41 years, thanks to the most powerful digital hearing aids in the world, he can hear. Imagine hearing your kids' voices for the first time. Oh, man, you can't look at a story like that. You can't hear about a story like that and not smile. I thought it was incredible that he was able to do what he did during his time with the UFC, fighting all of those big names. Just look at his resume. Like, he didn't fight any bums. Like, he fought a bunch of big names. You're talking about Hall of Famers. You're talking about champs. Again, Tito Ortiz, Michael Bisping, Rampage Jackson, John Jones. Like, he's in the octagon with all these guys. And now, all these years later, and he hasn't fought in MMA, I want to say in about 7 years now. But to hear this story, this is one of the feel-good stories of the weekend. This guy hasn't been able to hear anything in over 4 decades. And now he can hear his kids' voices for the first time. He said he was able to hear his mom laugh, and she started breaking down crying. He's can't wait to hear his brother speak and hope he doesn't sound like a foghorn were his words. What a great story. It's just awesome. Awesome stuff from Matt Hamill there. It's tough to wrap your head around something like that. Not being able to hear, probably thinking that there was no chance that you were ever going to hear your kids' voices. And he does a great job, reading lips and to be able to still have a conversation. You just saw him, the way he communicated with his trainers, the way he communicated with his cornermen in the UFC using sign language. But he gets an opportunity here to do something that he probably never thought he was able to do, and that's be able to hear. I can't smile enough about that one. At Jay Recher on all social media platforms. Make sure you follow me there. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Check out some of the videos from yesterday at Raymond James Stadium. Again, the post-game videos, over 31,000 views. The Mike Evans, over 13,000 views. So just on 2 videos right there, 40,000 views. That's how we roll here on the Jay Recher Podcast. We're going to continue to talk a little bit about everything. Make sure you go vote on Twitter/X about the Monday Night Raw tonight on Netflix. Crazy show. Roman Reigns, John Cena. If you're one of those people that are like, I haven't watched wrestling in so long, but I want to try it out, tonight is the night. Tonight is the night you're going to see some of the old foes. Excuse me. Some of the old people that you watched maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago. The video package that the WWE just put out, the cold open with Triple H, 3 minutes long, that is going to get you fired up. It's going to get you jacked up. I can't wait for that tonight. I also can't wait for baseball season. Cannot wait for the Rays back in action. And boom, we're going to talk some Rays baseball with our guy. We haven't talked to him in a while, the one and only Ryan Pepiot. Pep, what's going on, brother? How are you?
What up? What up, Jay? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. First off, how was the holiday?
Holiday was good. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man. Went up to New York. The weather was cold when we got there. I think the second day was like 9 degrees, and then it got up to 50. And I was thinking about playing some golf, but it was like, all right, let's get back to Florida. Time to get back to Florida.
I get it. We did.
You were traveling, right?
We went to West Palm Beach. So not a fun drive, kind of boring across the middle of Florida. Never done that. So, but it was fun. It's beautiful down there. We had a great time.
What's your off season been like as far as travel goes?
A lot of travel. Had a few weddings. Couple back in Indianapolis, where I'm from, and then had one in Scottsdale, Arizona. Then went to LA for Justin Turner's golf tournament.
Nice.
So Johnny was out there with us, DeLuca, so that was fun. And then from there, went 3 weeks in Sydney, Australia.
Whoa, 3 weeks, huh?
Yeah, my wife's her uncle lives in Sydney, so we stayed with them. Had pretty good setup working out and stuff like that, but then got to do plenty of sightseeing and spent some time at the beach.
Yeah, excuse me. People think that's a trip to make once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
When you say 3 weeks, you're like, all right, we just got to go for a while, right? You can't go for a couple days. So you're like, all right, let's make a real trip out of it.
No, you have to make a trip out of it because we flew from LA and it was 16 hours from LA.
Whew.
So when you take that long of a flight, like a week doesn't really do it because then you might get jet lagged on the way there, so maybe down for the count for a day or two, but we were actually fine. Honestly, the way we flew was like at night, leaving LA at like 8 o'clock at night, and then got into Sydney at 8 o'clock, like a day or two later, because it's like 16 or 17 hours ahead from there. So getting in late at night was perfect because then I could just like basically go right to bed and kind of get right on their time schedule.
I love that. Tell me about the Justin Turner golf tournament. Big names?
Yeah, there's some big names. I was the chauffeur for Corey Seager.
Nice.
So me and him were in the car together. Nick Punto and Justin Turner that was my foursome. Then you had Johnny DeLuca, Pete Crow Armstrong, Jaron Duran, Cal Raleigh. I'm trying to think who else was there. Jerry Harrison Jr. Let's see, Eric Karros. There was a bunch of people. Hamilton Porter.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm talking like I was like, oh my gosh, that's Ham Porter. That's Ham Porter. Right?
The great Hambino.
Yeah, the Hambino is there, striping some golf balls and just making everybody laugh. So it was a great event. It's fun. I've been doing it for the past couple of years, and it was a lot of fun.
It was funny to hear like Turner because you mentioned those guys, and I'm like, well, he played Dodgers, Red Sox, Mariners. Like, that's one thing. Like,
it's like it's like evolved, I've gone to like the last 3 years, and so just evolved. It was like mostly just former Dodgers players, and then I was like, I get there and I'm like out on the driving range. I'm like, oh, that's Duran, and there's Pete Armstrong because he lives down the street. And then he texted me. JT texted me a couple of days before, and he's like, hey, do you think DeLuca would want to play? And I was like, Johnny, see you in Sherman Oaks in your hometown in 2 days. So yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's great, man. And as far as like, what kind of throwing do you do in the off season? Are you a guy that is doing any type of long toss? Like, what's your time frame of when the season ends, the last time you pick up to a ball, till the first time you pick up a ball, and then the next step going back when you guys report?
Yeah, so I take about 10 days to 2 weeks off, no throw. And then I pick it right back up. But just super, super easy, 60, 90 feet, 3 times a week for the first couple weeks, then kind of 90, 100, 100, 120. Started getting a long toss towards the beginning, mid-January or December. And then bullpens, I'll throw off the mound first one Thursday.
Is there an excitement level to that? Like you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get back on the bump.
Yeah, there is some excitement to it because the beginning throws, you just go from throwing 100+ innings in a full season, and you're like, my arm feels awesome. And then you take a little bit of time off. Me, I'm one that doesn't take a whole lot of time off. I know some guys take a full month, some take 2. For me, it's always been short amount of time because of all the scar tissue and the stuff you build up throughout the season. I don't really want that all to go away. So taking off 10 to 2 weeks is like the perfect range for me where I can get back into it. And if you take too much time off, for me, the first week or 2 of throwing is like throwing with nails in your shoulder.
Oh, that's not good.
So, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just you kind of just got to get over that hump. So for me, being able to start earlier just allows the process to just be smooth and just slowly build up and ramp up. So I don't have to take 2 months off and then just grind it out for 2 months until we start throwing hitters.
Who do you throw with in the off season now? That
this off season, been with Pete and Kevin Kelly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
When you throw with Kevin Kelly, when you're warming up with him, do you have to pay extra attention because he throws the ball like that?
He starts out over the top. And then,
okay.
So then like it slowly starts like dripping down a little bit. But Kevin, I'm gonna tell you, he rips it from the get-go. Like the first couple weeks, I'm just like.
Do you like that? Do you like guys that, like, so when I grew up playing, because I played from 5 to 18, right? I hated guys that were throwing hard right off the rip. And maybe that was just my personality. I was always the guy that was like throwing like knuckleballs in the air. I was trying to mess around, like catching the ball behind my back. That's just my personality. But I played second, and my shortstop, Ryan, we never warmed up together because right off the rip, he's trying to throw beams. We're on a knee throwing freaking lasers. I'm like, bro, chill out, dude. I'm not trying to throw like that. Are you a guy does that bother you? Are you a guy that throws like that? Because I know you've seen guys like that where certain guys are just chill, and then other guys, they just every single throw, they want to be Nolan Ryan.
I've thrown with a bunch of different people like over the course of my career. And I will say, like, if somebody throws it from the rip, like first, second throw, just letting it eat right at me when I'm 45 feet away, I'm like, all right, I don't really want to play catch with you again.
Exactly.
But if you're gonna slowly build it back up and then on the way back in start ripping it, perfectly fine. I'm all for it. The only thing I'm not all for is when Kevin drops down and throws a sinker because it's coming right at my thumb. But I've gotten good at it. You know, I'm moving, turning the body, and I'm thinking about, like, I got a catcher's glove, but I haven't really been using it because it kind of really gets the thumb in there. So I'm thinking I might, after this year, I think I might get a first baseman's glove because I think that's going to be like the perfect hybrid in between.
Yeah.
I'll have to keep good eyes on that because you never know, Yandy might want to use it.
Yeah, you got that right, man. It's been so crazy with the off season, right? With, from your perspective, I mean, we've had so many different people, whether it was Mark Topkin or Colleen Wright of the Tampa Bay Times, and had Chris Laval on from the County Commission, and just from your perspective, I mean, what's it like being a player, knowing that kind of the future of the stadium is kind of up in the air, and knowing that you're going to be playing, at least for this year, in Tampa, in the Yankees complex at Steinbrenner Field?
I did just buy my first place. My wife and I just bought our first place right in downtown St. Pete. So my commute went from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. Oh
my God. I was wondering about guys like that. There was like, man, I got it all worked out good. Because I remember having this conversation with Kevin Kiermaier years ago. He's like, I was thinking about moving to St. Pete, but I like living here on the Tampa side. I'm like, if you don't care about the drive, bro, you're fine. Yeah. But I was wondering about that. I was like, man, what guys, whether you just bought a place or you're thinking like, I love my place in St. Pete. It's so close to the park. And now you got a 30-minute drive every day.
Yep.
That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, most of the time, places like stadiums, not necessarily in like residential areas. So most other cities, you're probably living 20, 30 minutes outside of the stadium anyway. True. So it's no different. For me, I think it's going to be fine. I would only say maybe like the getaway games in the middle of the week might be tough, like in the morning traffic wise. But the bad one's going to be my wife going to games in the afternoon. She's going to have to leave at like 5 o'clock because we go to a lot of Lightning games and it takes like an hour and 40. So, but it's first season, we can do it, like, it'll be fine. We'll make the best of it. And, I try not to think too much about the whole stadium, what's going to happen with the new one, what's going to happen with the Trop, what's going to be, I mean, we know what's happening this year, and that's really all I can focus on and all we can really focus on. Because if you start thinking about too much, then you just go down a rabbit hole, and it's not that's not going to be good for anyone's mental stability. But, it is what it is. I'm just happy that, we do know where we're playing, schedule's out, and there's been some tweaks to it. The middle of August, the long four city road trip may not be the most fun, but, we got to do what we have to do. I'd rather have that than sit around at a home game and maybe have to deal with the 2-hour rain delay, start a game at 11 o'clock or something like that with a 11:30, 12 o'clock game the next day, So it's going to be interesting, but just try to make the most of it.
What's the biggest adjustment that you make going from controlled indoor facility? Yeah, and I know, of course, you play away games outside, but as far as your everyday preparation, when you're starting every fifth day outside, is there a big thing that you got to change with that? Or is it just kind of, hey, it would just be the same as if we were on the road?
I think it's just going to be the same as if it was on the road. I think the only real big difference is at the Trop, you knew what you were getting every single day.
Right.
And you're going to get whatever, it's 70 degrees and no humidity, no whatever, no wind, no nothing, no sunballs, no nothing like that. Now it's, one day it could be 95 and super humid, or the next day it could be 75 and maybe a little drizzle. You never know. I think preparation wise, it's just going to be kind of looking ahead, maybe looking at the weather, saying, okay, like here's how it's going to be, maybe tone back the running a little bit if it's going to be a hot week or something like that, or maybe it's I think the only good thing too is being outside all year when we do go on the road and we go to some hotter spots where you don't just go play for 10 games inside where you don't see the sun, where you're just in a controlled environment the entire time. Then you go play a hot game outside and get a little winded faster. So I think being outside will help for the road games.
I look at a lot of different things on whether it's social media. I'm a big fan of like lists and seeing like where people rank. And I saw this rotation list. I don't know if it was ESPN or somebody put it out, and you guys weren't even in the top 10 rotations. And I'm just like, how, if Shane's coming back and you're getting all these guys healthy on board, how this doesn't compute to a top 10 rotation is just wild to me. Do you guys read stuff like that? And what do you think the ceiling is for the rotation this year? Because I think, if you guys go into the season and you have, 5-6 guys there that can, take the ball every fifth day and possibly throw a freaking no-hitter like we had a couple of years ago, I think the sky's the limit for this rotation.
Yeah, I think the sky's the limit for this rotation as well. I mean, it's really good to have Mac back. I'm excited because I've only been able to see him pitch on TV or watch him throw a bullpen where he's throwing 96, 97, and I'm out there just trying to grasp for 90 in my midweek side. And then you get Rass coming back as a full starter, which I'm really excited to see. And obviously you got Taj and Boz and Littell who can obviously proven that they can do it and have electric stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So and just being a part of that crew, it's fun going to the park every day on the times I do pitch, but it makes it even more fun to show up the days I'm not, because I'm going out there and going to watch somebody go out there and dominate. As for looking at the lists, for me personally, I don't care. I mean, if I see them, I see them, but they're just lists. It's fine. Prove people wrong.
That's right. I like that. And it's funny too. You mentioned that about the camaraderie with the pitching staff. We've seen it for years with the Rays, and going back to like the James Shields days and Price and Archer. And I asked Blake Snell about this years ago, and it's a different vibe, right? It's not like that everywhere. It isn't. And it's not like that with every position group. The Bucs offensive line's got like a tight knit group about them. They do things every year during the holidays. And there's just something about the Rays starting pitchers. And I remember Alex Cobb years ago, he was throwing a simulated game because he was coming back from Tommy John, and there was just so many people watching him. And we were just able, as the media, just kind of like sitting back there watching him throw to, I think it was like Wilson Ramos or something like that. And it was just, that doesn't happen everywhere. Guys are doing their own thing or chilling, or they're not in the building at all. What is it about that Rays pitching staff, the starters, and I don't want to exclude the bullpen guys, but just about the starters in particular, where it just seems like there's just an unspoken bond that has transcended over a couple of decades now?
I don't know. It's been fantastic to be a part of that. Just from day one for me getting there last year, and everyone was just bringing me right in and making me feel welcome. And it was somebody's got a live BP. Okay, what time does this person throw? If it's spring training or if it's somebody rehabbing or Max throwing a live, or when Rass and Springs were coming back, like watch them when they're throwing their simulated games. It's like, okay, they're throwing at 2:00. All right, let me get all my stuff done right before 2, pause everything, run out there, watch them throw, cheer them on, and then come back and finish what I have. It's fun. You know, you get to go out and watch, and the guys are fantastic. And everyone pitches pretty differently. You know, you got Rass, who's going to kind of throw a cut fastball at 98 plus with a sinker, with a sweeper, curveball. He's got the whole arsenal. And then you have Taj, who's just out there ripping 98 with a 93-mile-an-hour cutter slider with a splitter. And then Littell's out there painting the edges. And then you got Boz is out there ripping curveballs. And then Mac, obviously, doing Mac things. It's just, you know, you have all these different guys and different ways they go about pitching, and we're all rather young and still kind of like figuring ourselves out and in this game, in this league, and, you know, taking little small tidbits from each guy and emulating it into our game just goes a long way, because you can bounce ideas off of somebody, seeing somebody who's done it, somebody who does something well that I want to work on or add that to my game, or somebody asked me, hey, how do you throw this, or how do you hold this, or what's your thought process when you get in this certain situation? And, you know, just bouncing ideas off each other. And if you look at any game, home game, road game, just look on the bench and you see all 4 of us starters just always sitting on the bench together, you know, probably throwing sunflower seeds at Taj, and then, you know, just shooting the crap a little bit and just having fun, but then also out there watching the game and cheering our guy on out there.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's a joy to watch, and you can tell, like, every single time they pan to the dugout and they see you guys having a good time. But, you know, there's obviously baseball talk going on as well. And I know you guys, as much as your players, your fans too. And I know one of the big stories in all of sports over the last couple of months was the decision for Juan Soto. Where is he going to go? Is he going to stay with the Yankees? Is he going to go to the Mets? And then you see how much he went for. It's just pretty wild to be able to see that number on a contract. What did you make of the whole Juan Soto thing, of him leaving the Bronx? Did that surprise you? And, you know, what does it mean for the Mets, you know, getting such a big player like that?
I mean, I think he's making, $125 million this year alone, because he's getting, 51 a year and got a $75 million signing bonus or something like that. I'm like, it's a lot of ways you could spend $125 million right there. Maybe around like 65, 70 after some New York taxes come out of that. But
yeah, right.
Still, that's a pretty good chunk of change for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I saw somebody was breaking it down. It was like $8,000 a minute or something like that. I'm like, dude, what in the world?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wasn't really 100% sure where he was going to go. I kind of figured it was going to be either a New York spot. Like going into it, I was like, I think obviously Steve Cohen is known to go out and spend money on players, and, you know, been really good to families and people. Obviously, I know some people who have played there, and they're like, he's been fantastic. So not surprised that they went all in on it. And I think the Yankees were right behind, I would say, probably. So, I mean, he did amazing things for the Yankees this year and was a really force in that lineup. And then going to the Mets, who were arguably one of the hottest teams in baseball going into the second half and into the playoffs. So just adding that to that lineup, it makes it even more dynamic. I'm just happy he's out of the division, honestly. I mean, I get traded to Tampa, and I'm like, sweet, he's still in the NL West, and he gets traded to New York, and I'm like, well, I got to face him more times. And now we only play him 3 games a year, so perfect. You know, may line up and I have to face him because he's clipped me before, and it goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing with all these different things with the hitting, and everybody's like doing all these things, and he still has one of the flatter bat paths, right? I mean, it's just everybody's like, it's all launch angle, and he's just worrying about level swing, backspin. Though some of the balls that he hits are so high, you don't see guys hit home runs that high like he hits them. It's incredible because nobody hits. I think he's the best at bat in all of baseball. And then the Yankees.
I kind of agree with that. It's also to the point where I don't know how much it gets talked about, where just hit the at bats he takes in the plate discipline that he has. For somebody that's that good of a hitter, you know, you're going to get the guy's best every single time. And you're not going to get cookie meatballs down the middle of the plate. You're going to try to have to do damage on stuff that's tried to be on the corners and on the edges. And maybe somebody trying to do something different, maybe try to backdoor a breaking ball you don't necessarily do, or front hip a two seam or something like that. And he's just out there shuffling and doing his thing. And honestly, when you're on the mound, you don't really see it. But I mean, it's a tough at bat because you can't throw balls to him because he'll take his walks.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what he's got like a 450 on base percentage or something like that, which is nuts. And then go out there and he hits the slug and the average as well. And you see that in the lineup and you just like, don't let him beat you. Let him take a single, let him take his walk, whatever. And just as long as you don't give him a long ball.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw somebody in New York radio 6 months ago say it's a bad thing that Juan Soto takes so many walks. I was like, that could have been the worst, stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, yeah, taking walks in front of Aaron Judge is a bad idea. It's just like, that's all right, whatever, you say what you got to say. Let's have a little fun. Who are the top 5 most difficult at bats in the MLB? You could either speak from experience or from, because I think Soto's got to be in the list, right?
Soto's in the list. He's just tough at bat. Let's see who else is a tough at bat. Arise, the dude just fouls anything off, and then he's not looking to do damage. So I'm not worried about giving up a long ball to him, even though I have before. But I'll give you a little backstory. The first time I faced him was when it was Minnesota, and literally the second pitch of the game, he took a double off of the wall on a heater, and I was like, okay, I'll try to get him on a slider this time. 2-run homer, and then I was like, well, I haven't thrown him a changeup yet. Flicks it for a single. I'm like, well, I just can't get this guy out. I think he started this career off of me 6 for 6, and I'm like, how do I get this guy out? And then I faced him twice in one season, and I got him out one time, and he was popped it up and got around second base, and I was like, I finally got you out. So he's a tough one. I mean, Judge is a tough one too because he doesn't really chase a whole lot, and he's huge. You try to get the ball to the top of the zone to that guy on the heater because he destroys fastballs. And if you're going to throw him a fastball, you got to get it up there. And you feel like you're throwing it up an elevator shaft because you got to get it all the way up there. Let's see who else is a tough at bat. Tatis is a tough one, just because you hang any breaking ball or spin, he's just going to destroy it. And then I've even tried to throw fastballs up and in, and he just still smokes them. Just try to set some other things up, and that's a tough one. What is that, 4?
Yeah, one more.
See, there's a lot of ways I could go with this one. Let's see.
It's good because you got power guys, you got contact guys in there. I mean, Rice is good because I watched some of the drills that he does in the batting cage. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's not even real.
No, it doesn't even look. And hitting the knob on the ball, I'm like, okay, whatever you guys
I've seen guys do that, but I've also seen guys do half swings, and I was never a big guy that thought that you got much from seeing the ball behind you. People take a front, not a front toss, but a back toss, and they'll toss the ball forward and they'll try to hit it. And I was like, the ball's never coming from that direction. So I didn't, but he's doing stuff like that. And then he's cutting down his swing in segments where he's just the wrist flick at the end, doing the stuff on that. It's oh man.
All right. Then I got a tie for 5 and 6.
Okay.
Seager's a tough one. Because of how aggressive he is at the start of the at-bat. Mm-hmm. And then if you throw him thing multiple times, it's going to get crushed. And then the other tie would be Freddie Freeman. Just throwing up against live at-bats against him in spring training and stuff. Pitchers try to set hitters up, but that guy will set you up as a hitter. And it's kind of nuts. He'll be hunting one hole. He talked about when he hit that home run off Nestor Cortez, he's I was looking in this exact spot and I got it, and obviously did what he did with that grand slam. But it's he's looking in one spot, he sees one thing, he's okay, I know you just did this. This is what you're going to have to come to get back to it, and then just smokes it.
It's amazing. There's guys that are they're playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. They think there's guys that go up there and just swing.
Yep.
And they're playing a complete. I think that's one thing for baseball that is different than any other sport. Whether you're talking about pitcher versus hitter, which I think has stuff there, whether you're talking about pitcher holding on base runners, there's so many games within the game that you have to be a master of.
Yep.
And if you are a master of, you can be an all-time great. You said, eliminating pitches. And there's this big thing with Greg Maddux about, I'm going to get this guy to pop up here or something like that. He was able to set guys up by what he did 6 months before, man, I was throwing 2 seams all day on the outer half, knowing that this guy was definitely going after that. He was I'm just throwing them all breaking. I'm throwing all curveballs now.
Yep.
It's pretty wild. How deep do you go with that? Because I do think that if you're not comfortable with that, you could end up doing more damage than good. And you're like, oh yeah, I tried to elevate a fastball, and then I grooved one.
Yeah, I think for me, like the game planning and all that stuff, I do a pretty decent dive, but I don't go too crazy. The crazier I go means I'm starting to like honey hole little spots, and you're not going to hit your exact, like if I'm trying to throw a heater down away just on the corner, I'm not giving myself any room for error. So if I pull it a little bit ball, if I leave it over the middle of the plate, it's over the middle of the plate. So I'm trying to split the plate early in the count. I'm trying to split the plate in halves. And then when I get ahead of guys, then I'll split it in thirds. But for me, and I'll think about, okay, this guy, I went slider first pitch, first 2 at bats. I probably shouldn't do that the 3rd at bat, or I went heater change up to somebody. Well, I got to flip that, or maybe double up on something. But also I do dive into what guys do. If somebody's a guy I shouldn't double up against, some guy does hit spin better. You know, if I'm going to throw him spin, it's got to be a plus spin, or strike to ball kind of a spin, not leave it in the zone. Or if a guy hammers heaters, I should set it up with maybe a change up early, so then, you know, it's speed him up a little bit. And then you think about when you faced a guy a game before, okay, go back and rewatch that game. What did I do to every single guy? And then, okay, the game plan may be similar, but I shouldn't necessarily go heater, change up slider to the same guy just because I did that a few games ago. Or sometimes you get the same team 2 starts in a row with how the schedule works out. And it's like, okay, they just saw me and I did well the first time. Well, the second time makes it that much harder because they just saw you for 3 times through the lineup 10 days ago, and they know what you're going to do. They know what you're throwing. So you kind of have to like adjust it, but then you also can't go too far, because you adjust it too far, then you're taking away from my strengths. So I'm always trying to pitch to my strengths rather than pitching to hitter's weakness. Because if somebody's like a hitter goes up, I look at the lineup and it's a hitter and he's like stinks at hitting curveballs. Well, for me, a curveball is my 5th pitch, and I'm not going to go out there and rip a bunch of curveballs at somebody. Yes, I'll throw you one. But I'm not going to go live and die by the curveball to somebody just because they're not good at it. I'm going to put, he may be the best at hitting fastballs, but I'm still going to throw him a fastball. It's just be a little bit more fine tuned with where I'm throwing it.
Have you always been like that, or has that changed over time? Like, how much of the influence of Kyle Snyder has helped that?
That has helped a lot. When I first got into pro baseball, the Dodgers had in the minor leagues had us doing like a very, very extensive deep dive, and especially my first year, because I only went like 2-3 innings for my first starts because I threw so many innings in college. And so they're like, hey, we want you to just get used to doing this, taking a deep dive. And then I was getting like, okay, this guy's green zones are all this part of the plate, but he's got a red in the top corner here, and then a red in this bottom corner. So I'm only going to throw in these bottom corners. Well, then you're eliminating the whole rest of the plate, and you're not thinking about the fact that a guy that's going to make it in the Hall of Fame only gets to hit 3 out of 10 times. So I'm going to play my odds there. And that's kind of where I realized shortly after doing that, I was like, I'm walking too many people because I'm trying to throw it in this little tiny hole, and I'm not going to always hit that. So I had to kind of scratch that, take it a little step back, still do some, but not too extreme to that level. It's like, okay, maybe just, okay, the guy doesn't hit the outer half as well, so I'm going to try to stick on the outer half. But if I'm missing the inner half, as long as I set it up okay, it's fine. And then getting over with Snides, it's been fantastic. He's as good as everyone says he is, and then some. And it's just, he's like, trust your stuff. Your stuff is good enough to go out there and compete and to have success at this level, and throw to your strengths. Don't go throw 17 sliders in a row because a guy can't hit this lineup doesn't hit sliders, because that's not my MO. My MO is I'm going to pound heaters in the zone, and I'm going to force you to hit it and hit it early so that you can hopefully get your better one. And then I'm going to take your quick out. You're going to take my ground ball. I'm going to take my fly out, and then I'll go for my punch when I have the opportunity to go for the punch. What's
the goal for you this year?
Goal for me this year, I want to stay healthy, no more spider bites. Hopefully watch out for the line drives so I got my legs.
Do you know what kind of spider it was?
I don't. They didn't really do any tests on it, but I'm gonna have to guess it was a brown recluse. I would have to.
One of my best friends got bit by a brown recluse, and he got bit in a unhappy area, and it was like he had to go to the hospital and everything. So I was like, you got bit in the knee or whatever. As long as it was the knee and not where my friend got bit, I'm like, Pep will be fine. I'll be fine.
I was okay. But stay healthy, try to make all 30 starts, and then 160 plus innings. Limit the walks. continue to keep the walk rate under 8, under 3 per 9, kind of closer to 2 would be the ideal goal. Shoot for a higher goal. Strikeouts are strikeouts. I don't care. If I get them, I get them. I just want to continue to go deeper into ball games. Go get the 6th, get to the 7th up as many times, and try to get to the 8th or 9th if we can. Try to keep the pitch count down, get guys out within 3 pitches more.
Is that something that I know we talk about that a lot? I know it's been an organizational thing of like not trying to have hitters see the pitcher 3 times. Is that something that you guys know going into the year? Like, hey, I got to pitch to contact more. I got to, because if there's long extended at bats and you know what I mean? Like, is that something that is kind of ingrained in you guys to adjust how you focus on the entire season, not just start by start?
No, you don't want to think about that. Because if you think about, okay, I'm not going 3 times through the lineup, then you're like, well, I'm only going to go out there for 4 or 5 innings every single time. So it's, you kind of just have to think about it. All right, I'm just going to go and I'm going to attack every hitter. It doesn't matter. Whenever Cash comes out and takes the ball from me or shakes my hand in the dugout and says I'm done, like, I want to make sure it's leave the team in a good position to win the ball game. Hopefully when we're in the lead, or if we're not, then at least it's close. And then, just get guys out as fast as possible. And it's not necessarily just always like searching for contact. You're trying to search for early contact. And then once you get a guy, maybe 0-2, 1-2, then you take your shot out of punch. But then it's just trying to eliminate the 3 ball counts, eliminate the long at bats. Guys are going to foul stuff off. They're going to fight pitches off. And it's not necessarily trying to throw the more perfect pitch after that. It's just trying to throw, okay, so maybe I threw a slider off the edge and the guy just fouled it off. Perfect. I can attempt to go maybe a little bit further away and see if I can get a chase on this one, or I can groove a fastball right off that same line and blow it past him, or he hits a foul ball late or rolls it over for a ground ball, or try to bury a changeup in the dirt right off of it, play that kind of a game. And it's not, I think for me as a younger player, and even I've had to focus on it too, is you try not to make the perfect pitch every time. You're just trying to make good pitches and execute pitches where it's like, okay, I want to hit the outer half. I'm not trying to hit just the low and outside corner, because if I hit that low and outside corner, awesome. But if I don't, then I want to still start with an 0-1 count, because the change in facing a guy when it's 0-1 to 1-0 is like a 50-point swing or something like that, batting average wise. I mean, it's probably more. I don't know the exact numbers, but there's a massive swing for the batting average and the on-base percentage when it gets from 0-1 to 1-0.
Yeah. I mentioned that. I actually called into the Rays postgame show when I first moved here, and I was talking about that, and the guy was like, they should always take a first pitch. And I was like, are you really saying that? Like, you shouldn't always take a first pitch, because if it's there, and you got to let it rip sometime because your batting average. And they kept me on the radio for like 12 minutes, and I was like, man, maybe I should do this radio thing. That's pretty good.
But sometimes it is, you do get like, I want a guy to swing at first pitch, because I'm like, all right, sweet, first pitch out, I'll take it.
Right.
Or you get one pitch and you're on first base or whatever. I'm like, okay, perfect. I can just do it again, maybe get a double play ball. But it's getting strike one is honest. Everyone's like, what's the most important strike? And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, strike 3. I'm like, no, you got to get strike 1 before you can get strike 3. And strike 1's the most important one. And then you go from there. And if you get strike 1 the first pitch, you're already 0-1. You're in a leverage count for yourself. Hitter's already a little bit on the defensive. And then you have so many more things in the bag that you can do, because then you can throw everything off of it. Because sometimes you have a breaking ball that's maybe not a strike pitch or something like that. Or you have something that you can throw off of it or whatever it may be. But just getting that first pitch strike is just massive.
Got that right. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about the Lightning. You going to any games this week?
I know they play the Hurricane tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I might try to go to that one. But then I got Josh Lowe's wedding this weekend in Orlando, so I'm headed out.
Wow, Josh Lowe's wedding. Man, you're the crashing weddings all month, all year, all postseason or off season.
This will be number 4 for me this offseason.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You're at that age.
I had to say no to like 3 of them too. Like during
really?
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm that age, like 27.
Yeah.
A bunch of people getting married, and then also you play on a couple of different teams. You make a bunch of friends. Play in minor leagues. Play with a bunch of different guys. Go all over the place. When you're a baseball player, you have 2 months to get married, and so it's like every other weekend. And it's like you talk to any baseball player that's married, and you ask them what their anniversary is. I guarantee everyone is within like 5 days. Like I know people. I'm like, I'm the 13th. I got buddies that are the 12th. I got people that are the 14th. Like, I know somebody who's getting married on the 15th next year. I'm like, well, we're literally all in the same spot. And it's like, okay, well, anyone want to do an anniversary trip together so we can all go? Because we're all the same.
It makes a lot of sense. I don't know if anybody's really ever talked about that before, but it makes a lot of sense, right? You only got those 2 months after the season's over, and you're like, all right, let's get this rolling. So what is it, January, February, or December, January?
A lot of November.
November? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of November before like Thanksgiving, the holidays, and then early January, I'd say.
So November and January, those are the big wedding dates for baseball.
I would say
players.
anywhere between like the 1st of January to like the 15th, because then you get too close to spring training, and then it's like you can't really take a honeymoon trip after that because you got to kind of get locked in. And then you can't do anything in October really because playoffs. And then you get too close to holidays, then it's like maybe you can eliminate some people if you don't want a huge wedding. That might be benefit on somebody's, throwing out some ideas. So those wedding planners out there listening, start planning those around there, keep those smaller weddings smaller. But yeah, I would say beginning of November till like probably like the 20th range. And then I would say early January, probably a handful to the majority of people.
Wedding Planner 1 with Jennifer Lopez, Wedding Planner 2, the sequel with Ryan Pepiot. I could see it on the matinees right now. Ryan Pepiot, Rays right-hander, always a pleasure, my good friend. Happy holidays, happy New Year. I hope you and the family are well. Can't wait to, man, and I live in Tampa, man, so I'll definitely be at more games this year. I still didn't get word if they're going to give me another opportunity to throw the first pitch out. Probably not, but it's okay.
I scooped it. I'll be ready. If you got another one, I'm there.
You saved my bacon. It's funny because Steve Carney got the video, and it didn't look too bad. No. And that's the thing is, like, I didn't bounce. See, that's what I was trying to tell people. I didn't bounce it like I short hopped it. I threw it wide of the plate, and you scooped it, so it didn't look too bad.
No.
But I don't know if I told you, but Denard Span, my good pal, he was doing the TV broadcast for the Twins because he does Twins and Rays, and he was videotaping the whole thing from the booth. And when he saw me throw it, he's like, "Oh, come on, Jay! I can't believe you bounced it." And yeah, it was. I let him down, so I appreciate you picking me up.
You had the whole get up going. You Hideo Nomo'd it. You did it all. You had the look. Now we'll just this next one. It's like when you're on the golf course and you hit a really crappy first shot, and then you hit the second ball and it's like striped, and then the little second team All-American. So we'll get you a second team All-American shot at it, and it's probably gonna be right down the middle. What's
funny is like the thing. It's not an excuse. It's a reason. Because for me, like I've always had trouble growing up. Like I always had trouble getting arm extension. I played second base, so everything was right here. I threw sidearm and everything. So I was working on like warming up, like get long, get that arm back. And then Raymond came over and was like, "Oh, let's throw." So I get my arm back and I throw it to him, and he just whiffs it. And I'm like, if I don't take something off, I'm gonna blast Raymond in his head. So I start like just here. And then I get on the mound and I could feel like right when I just went right here and I was like, oh, geez.
Next time, just go sidearm. Just Kevin Kelly that thing.
Listen, so when I grew up, when I pitched a little bit in high school and I played in New York City and we played in the New York City League and I played against, remember Danny Almonte, the kid that lied about his age?
Yes.
So we played them. So he was 12 and I was 14. And it was just like, oh, and then when we got older, so when I was 17, we played against Orlando Polino. And I gave up 4 runs before getting it out in the first inning. And I said, screw that. I'm throwing knuckleballs, I'm throwing sidearm, and I'm throwing like Chad Bradford, like underneath.
Yep. Oh, yeah, get down there.
And we ended up beating them 7-4. And I pitched 6 innings. And all I did was throw knuckleballs, sidearm, underhand. That's how it was. How it was. And I ended up playing in a men's league years later. My buddy Ryan, you ever hear the name Ryan Kibler?
Mm-mm.
He's the minor league pitching guy for the Rockies.
Okay.
And he pitched out in Tampa, and we played in the men's league together. And he was playing center field, and I was pitching, and all I hear him is laughing. And I'm like, "What the fuck are you laughing about, dude?" He's like, "I play baseball all over the world. I've never seen anybody pitch like you." I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I top out at 84, and I'm throwing sidearm for days." So I was like, if I can make Kib, who was 6'8", pitching in the Rocky system, laugh, So now
you're doing something right.
I know. I got to make people laugh, So sidearm, Kevin Kelly style. I might have to go out there and get some lessons from him. And yeah, then you'll wear the first baseman glove with the thumb guard.
Yeah,
Ryan,
maybe you'll toss into like a little Kevin Kelly sweeper too, you know?
That was always hard for me. Like for me, when I threw sidearm, I couldn't throw sweepers. Everything I threw two seamers sidearm.
Yeah.
Because everything just had, like you were talking about before, had that dive to it.
Yep.
So like I would throw something that would maybe stayed a little bit straighter because it's just gonna have that natural 2-seam movement.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, you know, Kevin too is when he like his like cue on the side is like kind of pulling up on it because he wants it to, since he's throwing from down here, it's like not necessarily coming across in like curveball. It's up. It's going up. So like he'll throw it to me and like he'll be like, oh, I didn't like that one. I was like, I thought the movement was good. He was like, yeah, but it stayed straight and flat and went a little down. He goes, I want it up. And I'm like, ooh.
It's almost like a frisbee kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. I mean, that's just another level.
And then you get one coming up this way and then one going down that way. And I'm like,
I don't know how there's certain times, who was it? Chaz Rowe was with the Rays a couple years ago. And he was a bigger guy. I mean, Kevin's a smaller smaller guy. Chaz would just throw the ball, and he wasn't as pronounced as Kevin was when he dropped down, but that thing would just take off, man. It was like a flying saucer. I don't know how guys hit guys like that. Like it's you just get up there and pray. Yeah,
pretty much. And then also like the way people do it with like especially sweepers now, like that's the big fad in pitching is like if somebody throws one, a lot of times like it might pop out, so you can kind of see it like shoot out before it has to come back, and then you know it's going to be in the zone. But if it starts right on the plate, could run away. Like those are the ones that you got to like spit on, but then you got to hope it's not a 2-seam coming right down the inside corner.
Right. Yeah. Because if you're thinking, all right, it starts off, it's going to be on. If it starts on, it's going to be off. But then if they mix a fastball in, you're like, oh wow, I just got froze by an 84-mile-an-hour fastball. Like
honestly, like Kevin might be able to go out there and throw a sweeper because I'm pretty sure he starts the ball at like a right-hander's hip. He probably could throw a 2-seamer at the guy and then end it up behind him and maybe get a swing. You know, maybe.
Dude, that would be viral. Did you ever get a chance to hit in the big leagues?
Not in the big leagues. I got 4 at-bats in AAA. I got one hit.
1 for 4. Do you wish that pitchers still hit?
Yes. I don't want to face anybody because everyone's really good and really disgusting and they throw really hard, but I liked the free out.
You're looking at it from the pitcher's point of view. I thought you want to get up there and take a hack.
And like the gamesmanship too. It's like a little different too, because then you had to think about like, okay, we're going through a lineup and it's like third time's coming up and then the pitcher's on deck. Maybe have to take them out, and then you like there's a little bit of aspect of that that's lost. But I don't know. At the same time, it's like I don't have to go up there and hit. I don't have to practice hitting. I don't have to worry about maybe getting smoked every once in a while or going out there and looking dumb, which I'm going to do most of the time. But just the off chance of getting 1 homer in the big leagues,
that'd be awesome. Yeah,
I hit a 1-hopper off of the right field wall on my 1 hit.
Righty or lefty? You a righty hitter or lefty?
Righty hitter.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I hit it right down the line in Albuquerque, New Mexico. 1-hopper wall, 106 off the bat, and I got a single.
You're like, oh, I got to run.
No, I literally the first pitch, somebody hit a homer before me because you're playing in Albuquerque. You hit a fly ball, it pretty much goes out. And I was like, please get a hit and get like, or please don't hit a double or hitting the double play or get out, or like do something so I don't have to bunt because I was like, I don't want to bunt. And the manager goes, hey, take the first pitch. And I'm up there, like, haven't hit since high school, like, did a little bit at college, but didn't hit any games, just like a little practice. And then I'm like, I haven't seen 90+ miles an hour really that many times.
Right.
And first pitch, 95 right down the middle. I'm like, little leg kick, and my foot gets down as the ball's in the catcher's glove. I'm like, I'm in trouble. And then next pitch, another heater, and I whacked it, and I hit it. And I'm telling you, when it came off the bat, it felt good. But I was probably so late. I probably shot that thing straight off the net, straight right. And then I just see it hit, and I'm like kind of like a little jogging a little bit because I'm like, I don't know where this ball went. And I just see it bounce right off the wall. I'm like, oh my God, start running. And
those are those great swings where you're so late on it, but you're like, oh, I made solid contact, and then just stay straight. Like there's got to be some kind of like geometry to that.
Yeah. It wasn't one that was like a slicer where a righty hits one on the right field line. It was literally like I caught it on the outside corner and just shot it that way.
That's amazing. So you hit as a high school player?
Yeah, I played shortstop and third and first.
At what point did you know, like, I'm just gonna go with the glove?
When I got recruited in college, I was gonna DH and pitch, and then my coach in college got fired right before I went into school. And so then when he left, the new coach was like, "You're just pitching." And then my sophomore year, we started fielding like 840 at third base, and they're like, "Who wants to play third base?" And I'm like, "Me."
Wow.
And then they're like, "All right, let's see what you can do." Like in batting practice, I'm just hitting nukes and just out there swinging for the fences because I could hit it, but just like that was batting practice. And then I never got into any games. So in midweeks, I'd like take batting practice, and maybe I got on deck like twice, and then the game would get too close, and they're like, "Yeah, you're not playing." And then I was pitching well, and they're like, "Yeah, you're just gonna pitch. Sorry."
Isn't it crazy how it like takes off? Like you're both, and you're like, "Oh, maybe this," and then all of a sudden, like you don't do one for like 6 months or something, then you just stay with the weather, and you're like, "Yeah, you just never end up going back."
Exactly. Well, for me, it was like I was a football player, played the basketball, and then didn't pitch only until I got into college. And so like taking away football, baseball was my only focus. Really got to like develop and play into it, and then only pitching too. Really just was able to hone in on everything.
Well, we're glad you did, and we're glad that you're here in the Tampa Bay area. Appreciate you, my brother. Follow him, Ryan Pepiot, all social media platforms, and, of course, go on out to the games this year as the Rays play on this side of the bridge at Steinbrenner Field. Pep, appreciate it, man. Give my love to your better half, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Will do. Thank you very much. Talk soon.
All right, pal. See you, buddy. The one and only Ryan Pepiot. We could have probably talked for like 3 hours, man. Love that guy. He is awesome. Great player, even better human being. Can't wait for the Rays season. All right. A little while ago, I told everybody before we let off that I was going to talk about the Monday Night Raw on Netflix, and I put out the poll before, and I wanted to see how many people were going to be watching tonight. So the poll ran, and the answer is kind of 70-30. 70 no, 30 yes. But I'm going to tell you why you want to watch tonight. Tonight is going to be such a huge night when it comes to the WWE, and it's a groundbreaking venture. Now, I love that there's not going to be a time limit, so it's not going to be like, all right, it's a 2-hour show, it's a 3-hour show. They're on Netflix. They can go for as long as they want. They don't have to worry about breaking at a certain time or, all right, we got to get off because there's another show. It's going to force people to tune in the entire time. Huge names going to be there. You're talking about The Rock. You're talking about John Cena. The card is like a WrestleMania event. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa battling for bloodline supremacy. You got Seth Rollins and CM Punk. You have Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Bianca Belair is going to be there. Cody Rhodes is going to be there. Triple H is going to be there. I'm sure he'll probably be the first thing you see tonight. The John Cena retirement tour starts now. He's going to be joining back up with the WWE for the entire year, his final year with the company. So he's full bore house shows, pay-per-views, and PLEs. Like, it's going to be great. Will Hulk Hogan be there? Will a bunch of other guys? Like, it is going to be crazy. So I'm sure a lot of people out there, you do have Netflix. If you're going to tune into one WWE event to kind of see what it's all about right now, tune in tonight at 8 o'clock and just check it out and see what you think, because I think it will be worth it. All right, a big thank you to my guy, Ian Beckles, for joining us on the program today, as well as Ryan Pepiot. Really good stuff as well. Follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Show tomorrow. I've got Lightning Hockey tomorrow night, show on Wednesday, show on Thursday, show on Friday, every day at noon right here on the Jay Recher Podcast. I'll be at Emily Tuesday and Thursday this week. So if you're there, hopefully we'll be able to watch a Lightning victory together. YouTube, like and subscribe. Every subscription definitely helps. And if you're looking for Tampa Bay sports talk at noon every single day, you're going to get it right here on the Jay Recher Podcast. A lot of people were wondering, what am I going to do at noon for Tampa Bay sports? I am here for you. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody that you know to subscribe here. You're going to be able to watch it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm excited, and I hope you are too. All right, I'm going to cut up some of this stuff. It's going to all be on my social media, so if you missed it, don't worry. You can go back and watch it. That's another reason why you want to subscribe as well. I hope everybody has a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you next time right here on the Jay Recher Podcast. I'm gone.